We got a pretty special Friday for y'all. We got some big news. Democrats seem very desperate to stop the banning of TikTok, which seems likely. I don't know if likely is the right word, plausible, possible, feasible, but we'll see because we're now starting to see some pretty serious resistance. But along with the cultural manipulation, there's data privacy concerns, though I think the cultural manipulation is the most important. Now, in terms of what we are doing to win this culture war, it goes beyond just whinging on the internet. First, if you caught the Culture War podcast earlier today, I am joining a lawsuit against California for censorship. And this could get big. Minds.com is also a party to this lawsuit. Basically, California is requiring platforms to create terms that would, let's just say effectively interfere with free speech. So I'm going to be joining that lawsuit, fighting back. I am also, you're usually not supposed to do this, but I'll say it anyway. We are beginning the preliminary stages of filing litigation against Bandcamp for the termination of our account, and I'll explain for a few important things. And again, I'll confer with my legal counsel as to what the correct approach is, but here are the personal complaints that I think are legitimate and fair. I don't know if the people who paid for the songs that I've produced have access to those songs, which means I have no idea who my customers are. I have no idea if they need a refund. I have no idea if they still have the product. Some people have said they still have the song. Well, if that's the case, then Bandcamp is hosting my content, my copyright without my permission, and using it to profit off of me by providing that content to individuals in the long term while terminating my account. So I think we've got some very serious problems. Plus the withholding of data. I believe it's likely they're withholding money from us because they're not communicating with us. So we're going to have to go into some very serious litigation against them. So we're going to be pushing back. But before we get into all of the news and the talk of cultural stuff, there is another big announcement. Today we launched our 4th song, Bright Eyes, to a tremendous response. Head over to trashhouserecords.com and you can pick up the song. Notice we're not using Bandcamp anymore because they removed us. Clearly, whatever it is we're doing in the culture war is effective. We released 3 songs before this. All 3 charted on Billboard. That's a 100% song on Billboard rate. I'm sure most bands would love to have reached that. Granted, we put out like 3 singles. They've all done really well. We're hoping that Bright Eyes, the latest song we put out, hits Billboard as well. And you can help make that happen by going to trashhouserecords.com and downloading the song for, I think the minimum is 69 cents, but you can put in whatever price you want. We want to chart. We want to prove that we are having a cultural influence and an impact. And I think currently we're number 24 on iTunes with 0 promotion. So we've put out no, with the last releases, we did promos with, through all the videos throughout the day. We didn't do that today. And we hit number 24 in the top 100 on iTunes already. I'm pretty sure with all of your support right now buying the song, we'll probably hit number 1. Maybe we'll see. We hit number 1 with the past 2 songs. We even beat out Taylor Swift briefly. I'm hoping that we can once again do it, but it's entirely up to you. If you guys want to support our cultural endeavors, buy the song at Trash House Records. And I think the reason that we got banned from Bandcamp is likely because they don't care that much when we complain on the internet, because complaining does very little. But if we make successful cultural products that influence people and get people talking and become popular, they are actually then losing the culture war. So when all these outlets are like, how are we supposed to ignore the 3rd song from Timcast that has hit Billboard? I mean, it starts to become really weird when people are like, how are they not? I mean, isn't that a big deal? How many bands have pulled that one off? So if we get a 4th song in a row, we'll just keep trying to do it. So that's if you think we should. And if you think we should, trashhouserecords.com, it would be greatly appreciated. But of course, we'll promote it more next week, and we'll talk with Carter about the song. And we've got Pete Parada on drums, Phil Labonte. Of course, he's been on the show a bunch. He has a guest appearance in the music video. And so it is what it is. Support our work. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Here to talk to us about winning the culture war, because again, it's more than just whinging. It's someone who's actually very successful and has taken a very powerful stand to fight back in that culture war. We have Ethan Van Sciver.
Hey, all right. Great to be here on Timcast. Amazing.
Thanks for coming. Who are you? What do you do?
Okay, so like you said, my name is Ethan Van Sciver. I'm a 30-year veteran of the comic book industry. As I say on my own show, world's most charming, disarming, elegant, eloquent, and yet humble man. Great big Sopranos fan and trusted member of the media. Not as trusted as you, though. I think that you're more trusted than I am at this point, and rightly so.
By the corporate press?
Maybe
by regular people.
That's all that matters. Yeah, I am a comic book artist. I work for Marvel and DC. I've drawn Green Lantern and Flash mostly, some X-Men stuff in my time. I was viciously canceled for voting for Trump in 2017. Everybody kind of knew that I was a Republican. But when I voted for Trump and Trump won and then I celebrated, that was a bridge too far. The mechanism of cancel culture. I did celebrate. I took a nice picture of myself in a MAGA hat, posted on Twitter. People were outraged by that. I didn't understand because I was so polite when Obama won.
Yep.
I was so polite. I didn't get it.
So for people who aren't familiar, you're an artist and you created The Flash's mom.
Yeah.
You created Atrocitus.
Yeah.
Are there any other?
Saint Walker, Lara Flees. Like if you've been reading Green Lantern, and some people in the chat probably have, we did something called the Emotional Spectrum back in 2009 or so. And what it was we realized that Green Lantern, his green energy represents willpower. Then there's yellow energy, which represents fear. And boy, it really seems like those two colors are real close on the rainbow, right? And maybe there are other colors as well.
Yeah.
So we created red lanterns, orange lanterns, the yellow lanterns, all the way to
blue,
violet.
red, and
they all represented a different sort of motivation. Red was rage, blue was hope, yellow was fear.
Wasn't there like white, like a combination?
There was, and that's why there are now white power rings that are on the market.
Wait, what?
You got to make a villain called Ultra.
Wait.
No,
that's a real story. I remember that.
This is true. I'm so sorry, DC. I'm so sorry about this, but it is true, and I guess it's part of my legend. Look, if they're green power rings and there are white lanterns, there are white power rings, and you can find those on Based. You can find those on eBay, I guess. So anyway, yeah, I created all that stuff. All those characters are, associated with that. And did very, very well for DC. All the symbols associated with those characters, T-shirts, baseball caps, all the stuff there. It was a marketing bonanza.
Isn't there a Black Lantern Corps as well? And it's like
zombies. Yeah. All of the DC heroes and villains that died, we resurrected them. We gave them Black Lantern rings, and they came back and bedeviled the heroes and the prophecy of Blackest Night. It was so much fun. I mean, we really got people excited. Because the idea that we gave to DC Comics was this superpower that's transferable to any other character. Imagine how this lights somebody's imagination on fire. That, if you get a red lantern ring, you can put it on Wolverine, a Marvel character, and he's suddenly Red Lantern Wolverine, and he's spitting up red energy, and he's crazy and wild. The Hulk might have a Red Lantern ring. This is just great for comics. So those are Marvel characters, but it just is great. And DC just loved the hell out of it. They did so much great stuff with like the emotional spectrum and all the different colors and all the different rings.
But then you voted for Trump, so.
Yeah.
If you guys are listening,
so let's
I'd like to make a character called Ultraviolet that has the ring.
They already did it.
Oh, nice. Does it make him partially invisible?
I don't know.
Okay, well, we'll get through this and we'll get into it. We got Brett Dasovic hanging out.
What is going on, guys? It's been a while. It's been a very long time since I've been on here. Yes, I do Pop Culture Crisis Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on YouTube. You should join us there. I remember that story about the white power rings and all the there was all these memes being made. It's a guy going and says like DC headquarters and says how many days since last time DC screwed something up, and they tear it off and start it over again. I remember that.
Right on. We got Ian's turn.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you, Ian Crossan, here on a Friday night. Let's steamroll this.
What's up, everybody? It's Kellen. Ethan, if you need to, you can move this mic closer to you, further from you.
How do I sound? Do I
you
sound okay?
great. Yeah, just put it right below your mouth.
You can move it around
man.
with you whenever you're...
I'm going to use it to cover as much of myself as I can, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump into this first story. I saw this from Politico, and I don't know if they're going to ban TikTok, but I personally think TikTok should be banned for a variety of reasons. And there is a difficult question, but we don't want to curtail free speech. Politico reports, will TikTok be banned? Some Dems say not so fast. A number of House Democrats and at least a few senators remain unconvinced that singling out the Chinese-owned app is the best course of action. All right. Well, we'll see what happens. I don't know exactly, but let me explain to you why I think this is happening. I think the Democratic Party and the culture war, cultural left, represent zombification, social zombification. Zombies crave only to spread the zombie disease. There's no end goal. So if you look at the issue of TikTok, there's legitimate problems with allowing a CCP product into the hands of our children. The cultural manipulation. In China, the kids there their version of TikTok has educational, science, that kind of stuff. Really great for a young developing mind. In the United States, there's young women who think they're birds saying they're a bird person and their pronouns are bok bok or something like that. There's the woman who's like frog self pronouns. These things are being propagated on the American version, which is literally harming vulnerable people to the point where you notice a lot of the trans people, the trans species people, people who actively want surgeries are autistic and extremely vulnerable. TikTok is doing that. You then have the data spying component. The fact that Democrats would defend this, despite the fact that there are clear, obvious, and objective problems with it, shows the zombification of the party. If it empowers them, they don't care the damage it causes they want to extract from the system. So I think it should be banned. And the main reason is not so much the data spying, which I think is a problem, but the cultural influence. And that's probably why the social zombies want to maintain it. It spreads social zombism and mental illness. So this is a big issue right now. If we want to win the culture war, there is a political and technological component right here. Granted, I think creating culture is the number one way to do it and pushing back, but it's hard if the mechanisms for delivering that content are controlled by, say, the CCP.
What's interesting is, first of all, I heard earlier, somebody mentioned to us, I mentioned the fact that China has a different algorithm for their version of TikTok than we do, right? And somebody said that Andrew Schultz said that he started that as a conspiracy theory. He said that was actually him that started the STEM rumor that they had a different version of the algorithm. Is that even if that's true, it doesn't matter because the damage it's doing here in America, whether China was getting the same stuff as we are or not, I can't say if that's true. Somebody said that to us when we were on the show earlier. I think a lot of it's also the addictive nature of it. As much of you talk zombification, I talk the addictive nature of phones, of technology, and just how much damage it's doing for people to have to use this technology constantly, all the time, every day.
Well, let me just say, I mean, if espionage isn't the issue, I got to ask then, what makes TikTok different from what Tim's talking about than YouTube Shorts, which is basically adopting the same delivery system as TikTok, highly addictive, short videos. I mean, essentially, it's the same thing. It's the same product. So why is that not a problem and TikTok is?
That's a good point. And that's why this bill that's been introduced into the Senate, it's called the Restrict Act, is so dangerous because there really isn't much of a difference in these companies. If you start generally targeting social media companies for people doing things you don't like on those networks, it gives you carte blanche to just start ending networks, ending TikTok, ending Twitter. We're banning YouTube because somebody on YouTube said that an election was fake. Like, I'm reading this bill. It's called the Restrict Act. Maybe we can pull this up at some point. And there's a few sections in the Restrict Act that are completely insane. Section 3, what do we have? Section 3(1)(c) is fucking insane. It's Section 3(a)(1)(c). What it says is, oh my God, this is so crazy, dude. This is like the Patriot Act for technology, basically. We cannot allow this kind of
What does it do?
Power. It gives the Secretary of Commerce the ability to, oh God, it's so, okay, so let's see, Section 3A. The Secretary, in consultation with the relevant executive department and agency heads, is authorized to and shall take action to identify, deter, disrupt, prevent, prohibit, investigate, or otherwise mitigate these technologies, is what they're saying. If they pose an undue or unacceptable risk of interfering with the result or reported result of a federal election. And they're saying, like, if a person, this is any covered transaction by any person or with respect to any property subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. So any American citizen that says an election was fake on Twitter means that they can go into mitigating any mitigating act that they can take to solve that, meaning they could shut Twitter down.
No?
I don't think that Andrew Schultz thing is true. I mean, the reporting going back talks about how the algorithm is controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. Yeah. So I pulled up Fox, multiple sources.
I had always heard that they had said that they had a different algorithm in China than we have for our version of TikTok. It was just something somebody said earlier, and I said, I could see somebody like leading with something like that, making a joke like that, and it catching fire somehow.
There's no way for them to know.
There was also reporting like 2 or 3 years ago, which we talked about, so this is probably like 2 years ago, about how they were specifically trying to ban feminists and feminist ideas from their schools and stuff like that. So maybe the specific concept of academia, of STEM content, he may have made up. I don't know. I can't verify.
There's no way to know. There's no way to know. We don't have access to the
But I mean,
algorithms,
if
there's no way to know.
so Joe Rogan made the claim, which popularized it.
Yes.
So perhaps Schultz lied to Joe, and then Joe ran with it. But there is previous reporting that where people are saying Douyin is China's version of TikTok has a very different algorithm that doesn't allow this kind of content. It doesn't specify STEM or anything like that, though.
Think of all the influencers that will be out of a job if they ban it here in America.
What
will they do? What will they do?
But you don't make real money on TikTok.
Yeah.
You make like.
They push it towards brand deals, though, right? A large amount of following gets them more content with other types of products that they sell through their.
Let me put it this way. You can make money on TikTok. You can make money on Instagram. In terms of social media, I think YouTube is the highest view to dollar ratio. And it's still crappy. Podcasts are the best. Audio version podcasts have like the best CPM. If you want to make money on ads and sponsorships, it's audio podcasts.
Instagram Reels actually do fairly well for mid-level creators and down, right? Probably not for the larger ones because there's a cap on how much you can make per month.
Facebook does way better. So putting your videos on Facebook makes like 10 times the money of Instagram. Like per viewer. That was weird. Don't ask me why. I don't know.
Well,
and TikTok was completely worthless. That's why I personally think TikTok, in my personal opinion, I believe it is probable that TikTok's followers are fake and intended to socially manipulate young people.
Dude, this is coming out of China, which said that they had zero COVID. They were like, we have no more COVID now. It's all done. Like, they just lie, analytically lie.
I think one of the biggest black pills for me was when somebody on Facebook, like long before I got rid of Facebook, was like actually said, China's got the right idea by locking people in their homes. I'm like, that's enough internet for today. Like somebody I've known for a long period of time.
Here's what's going to happen. There's going to be another lockdown. And then someone's going to make a video on TikTok and it's going to say, I feel kind of bad. This doesn't seem like a good thing to do. We shouldn't be locking down. Then the phone's going to go, and they're going to look, and it's people going to be saying, they're going to get a bunch of notifications from people being like, this ain't it, bro. You're wrong. Are you trying to destroy the planet? Bro, you're so off. I can't believe I ever followed you. Then they're going to be like, oh, what's happening? Why is everybody mad at me? Then they're going to make a video and being like, I thought about it, man. Like, we probably do need to lock down. And then like, wow, you're so smart. You're so smart. That's what the bots do.
Sargon posted like a poll the other day that said a bunch of people in Britain said, when they said like, do you believe that the lockdowns were a mistake? And most of them said no. I don't know how big the sample size was in a poll like that, but like even with hindsight being 2020, it's just you're living in a different world than people who intake a different set of news to you. So somebody watching CNN or over there, I guess the BBC, they don't understand things the way you understand about what's been going on in the world. So functionally, they might see another lockdown as a good idea because they just don't get that things are different now.
Straight up, it's a manipulation tool, TikTok. We don't have access to the algorithm, so we don't know what it's feeding us, why it's feeding us, what it's feeding us. We don't know what's getting tracked with our data. So that stuff needs to be opened up. We need to see that code. That I understand we could use the government to force open, but to do these dumb, bland, general legal things where it gives them, they can mitigate any system that, quote, poses an undue or unacceptable risk to the national security of the United States.
Ethan,
are you kidding me?
That's insane. That is absolutely insane.
Do you use TikTok?
I have a TikTok, but I don't use it. I'm too much of a boomer. Sorry. I'm on YouTube. That's
I think you're a Gen Xer.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Yeah.
But it's like you don't need to see the code to know that doom scrolling is bad. That like you'll find yourself like 10 minutes go by and you're like, holy crap, what the hell have I been doing for the last 10 minutes? And like I go through phases like that, right? Where like not TikTok, but like there's a difference between posting content and then where you find you've just been scrolling and looking at nothing important for 15 minutes. You're not even really engaging with what you're looking at, but you always feel worse for wear when you're done. And that's just as much as you're talking about as it incentivizes people to act or promote bad behavior or to promote unhealthy behavior. It is mentally damaging for your brain, even if you're taking in general content, to sit there and doom scroll for long periods of time.
What is that thing called that you talk about all the time? Apoptosis?
Apoptosis is when a cell programs itself to die because it has no more function in the system.
I feel like Democrats are the party of that, right? Like every single thing, I shouldn't say everything, but like most of their policies are just about killing their constituents. Like abortion, sterilization, or now TikTok. It's like promoting the things that maximize the likelihood an individual suffers and then dies.
That, or just the fact that people who use it tend to vote that way, and it encourages them to reach out to more people.
But that's
more
what
people
I
who
mean.
vote
Like,
that way.
if their policies result in people ending their bloodlines, they're like just basically the Democratic Party is the great filter of social Darwinism.
Well, that's what they talk about with LGBTQIA philosophy, right? They don't give birth, they recruit.
And then the people who are resistant to those ideas have families and persist, and their bloodlines continue.
I worry sometimes, though, like we've talked about how they say Gen Z is going to be the first generation in a long time that will be more conservative. I don't know if that's bared out to be true. But a lot of times I wonder, it's like the power of social media. You can have all the kids you want. That kid is still going to have a phone at 12 years old. If the parents don't do the right thing, that kid's still going to have a phone too young, and they're going to have access to material that's very damaging them to have access to if they don't have parents that are showing them the right way to live.
You got to get out of the cities. You got to homeschool your kids.
Yep.
But let's talk about some of the stuff that we can do in pushing back. It's not just about complaining on the internet like we often do. So a few things. We did a podcast episode of The Culture War. Bill Ottman was here. We were talking with James Lawrence, lawyer. We are suing California because California passed a law that has requirements on big tech platforms, are basically requiring censorship, which negatively impacts me as a media company and content creator for distribution on these platforms. And then Bill, who's the CEO of one of these big platforms. So we're actually taking those steps to do something because we're not just sitting around doing nothing. We're likely going to be entering litigation, filing lawsuits against Bandcamp for terminating our account because they've created a whole slew of problems for us and all of the tens of thousands of people who've purchased music. I think it may be in the thousands, possibly tens of thousands. So it's created a disaster. You know, and the way we described it is like, if you have like if you go to a mall and you sign a contract to open up a mall store and sell a product, and then without breaking any of the rules of the mall's contract or any of the deal, one day you walk up and they've pulled the gate down, locked it shut, they've changed the locks, and you're like, I've got stuff in there, and they're like, too bad it's ours now, and you're like, yo, at the very least you have to give me my stuff back. Like, you can't just take my stuff.
What was the reason they gave you?
None.
Why they didn't give you one?
So we don't even know if they're still holding our money. We don't know if they're still distributing our content or hosting our copyrighted works without a permission or profiting off of it because they've communicated nothing. So our only course of action is going to be that's what I'm saying, the mall analogy. If they shut the store and we know for a fact our stuff is in there, and we do because we had music on the platform. Mm-hmm. Well, so the first thing is, you have to let us in to go and check to see where our stuff is. We own the rights to that. That's our copyrighted work. Mm-hmm. With the mall, they'd let you go in and say, look, your stuff's not there. I mean, granted, if you have an ice cream machine and you didn't get it, it's there. With us, the problem now is we can't contact any of the people who bought from us, not directly, so we don't know how to refund if they need a refund. So if they don't have the music, then Bandcamp took a percentage of the money that transferred and then took the music away from the people. Okay, that's a problem. Because now we've got that's like theft or something. I don't know. That's interesting. And then if they didn't take the music away, now I've got a problem because they're hosting my copyrighted content and profiting off of it by hosting it on their platform for people without my involvement. So we've got a legal issue that needs to be answered by the courts. Can a business host my copyrighted content after removing me from the platform if it retains a customer base that they are profiting off of? So there's a real question that has to be answered. I forgot what it's called, but we talked about it. Anyway, we're taking these actions. We're suing. We're also building culture. We released a song. Pick it up at trashhouserecords.com. But this is what brings us to you, Ethan. You got this comic, Cyber Frog 2.
That's the second one, yeah. Wreck Planet.
Let's talk about your story first with getting canceled, so people can understand what ComicsGate is and why they should hear your story. Because I know a lot of people may not be familiar.
Oh, sure.
Where'd my pen go?
Is it this one?
That
pen's awesome.
So basically, you are responsible for some of the most iconic comic book imagery.
I like that. I don't know if it's true, but
Well, so you created Flash's mother, Nora.
Well, that's one thing, yeah.
No, I know, right?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Hold on. The movie that's coming out, the Flash movie, it's about him going back to save his mom, is it not?
Right, I think
the
so, yeah.
Flashpoint paradox?
I guess.
That's a major DC storyline.
Right.
Where the Flash, his mother was killed by Zoom, and then he wants to go back in time because he can run so fast he can do it. So this is a character you created, now so influential. There's a major, massive, blockbuster film about to be released. I think that's important context for people to understand the amount of influence you've had on the industry is large. Plus, in the video game that came out a few years ago, Injustice 2, Atrocitus is a character who is in it. You can play as him, a character that you created the art for.
Yeah, I created the whole thing. I'll take 100% credit for Atrocitus. Yeah, I had the name. I said, this is so DC Comics, Atrocitus. It sounds great.
So you actually created the character.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then one day you said, "Hey, everybody, I voted for Trump," and they came after you.
Well, they knew I was a Republican. I mean, they did. I literally was the only elephant in the room all the time when I went to comic book conventions, and everybody looked at me weird. I would have friends. I would make friends with other professionals, and then I don't know. We'd spend a little time apart, and then the next time I'd see them, they'd go, "You voted for Bush?" And they'd have this look of disgust about them that I was like, yes, I'm a Republican. I voted for Bush. And then that was fine. I think the Obama years were great because, for me anyway, because I wasn't being persecuted. Nobody was worried about anything because Obama was president. They won. And Trump was a joke. I really didn't think much of Trump in 2015, but he won me over by 2016, and I was a fan. And I loved the Pepe memes. I loved all that stuff. Anyway, it was no big deal until Trump actually won. And when Trump won, I just thought, great, it's our turn. Very naive about the culture war. Wore my MAGA hat that was autographed by the president, and I took a nice picture and I tweeted it out. And that's when I started to see messages from my peers saying things like, Ethan's MAGA, Ethan Van Sciver's MAGA. Did you see that? Yeah. Well, I guess he's canceled now, right? Everybody, he's canceled. And I didn't know what that was all about, but there was definitely like rage over this idea that somebody who was a fairly influential artist at DC Comics was a Trump supporter. And I didn't think it was going to, I basically talked to a few of them and kind of said, hey, this is the way, oh God, I'm so naive. I said, this is the way the country moves forward. Right step, left step, basically we all get our turn and hopefully, this is progress. But then I got a message from somebody who said, how could you do this? You voted against all of your queer comrades in comics. How do you understand that our lives are in jeopardy and you voted for that? Don't you care? And I guess I wrote back to that person and I kind of said, I guess I don't care that much about that. I guess I have other priorities in my life than, we all have our different, issues that we vote on. Anyway, my response to that tweet or that private message got shared around to all my peers. And now everybody was furious with me because I'd basically invalidated the lives of my queer associates in comics. And then the final thing was I was persecuted. People were coming after me. I had a writer I was working with on Batman. I was doing Batman for a little while. This great guy named Greg Hurwitz. And he had a mutual friend. He had Jordan B. Peterson was his friend. And he kind of said, have you heard of this guy, Jordan Peterson? I said, yes, he's great, Well, he's seen your work. He likes it. He wants to know if you'll illustrate his upcoming book. And I was just like, well, if I do that, if I do it, I'm going to get a whipping. I know it. That's going to be a big problem. I'm already on the verge of cancellation. I was terrified. My wife and I just had a baby who was diagnosed with autism. And so I needed my job. I really needed my job. But on the other hand, I had this conversation with Jordan Peterson where he said something that really impacted me. And I still think about this every single day. And it helps me step forward. It helps me take another step. He said, Ethan, I said, I'm scared. Dr. Peterson, I'm scared to illustrate your book. And he just said, Ethan, you can't let these mobbers back you into a corner. I wish I could do a Canadian accent for you. You can't let these mobbers back you into a corner. And I just thought to myself, you're damn right. I'm going to illustrate your book. And so I did. I illustrated 12 Rules for Life. It turned out to be a #1 bestseller, and that was it.
I have someone sent me the Korean version.
Really?
Oh, yeah, nice. I guess it was a joke. I can't read Korean.
Though it may have burned some bridges or seems to have, that it launched your career in so many other ways. That book is huge.
It was big, but again, it wasn't really my book. It was Jordan Peterson's book, and people just kind of incidentally go, "Oh, your name's in that." Like my little sister Hannah, who's a big fan of yours, she's watching right now. Hi, Hannah.
Howdy.
She was shocked. She's like, "Oh, we love that book. I can't believe my brother illustrated it." Like I just, So in any case, like that, it's more stuff like that. But what it really did was it just kind of like set my feet in stone. Like I am now officially, I guess, a culture warrior. Where I didn't even believe the culture war existed until then.
Wow.
What
year was this? 2017.
2017, and people were calling me a white supremacist and a Nazi and all these things that in 2017 really hurt. You didn't want to be called a Nazi. You didn't want people to think you were racist, but those are the weapons that they use against creative people and pretty much anyone that they want to destroy. Nobody, you can't deny that you're racist. Racism is on a spectrum. So is white supremacy.
And if you deny it, that proves it.
In a sense, yes, it does.
The Kafka trap.
You're not even aware that you're racist. Let me explain why you're racist. So it really is a nasty situation. And in any case, DC Comics called me up. And it was, I got to say, DC did the best they could, but they were being swarmed by the media over my existence working there. The thing that leftists do that they're so great at is they have accomplices in the media that will write the articles that you want them to write, that they want them to write. And then those will get published on the Daily Beast or any of these awful websites. And then they'll refer to those articles as proof that you are exactly who they say you are. And then those get referenced in Wikipedia. Your Wikipedia is soon denouncing you as a whatever it is, a white supremacist or whatever they're calling you. Anyway, so that was that. DC Comics called me up, and God bless them. They tried to stand by me as much as they could, but somebody who I really liked there, a friend of the family, called me up, and I said, "Am I okay? Is everything okay?" And I could hear him pouring a drink into a little glass. I could hear the ice. And he just said, "We can't renew your contract."
Wow.
And he took a big drink, and I was like, I have a child. I have a baby. I have a baby with autism. I need my job. And he said, "Well, you've got 4 or 5 more issues on your contract, and then that's it. You got time to find other work, So it was absolutely terrifying.
You know what the mistake you made was?
What?
Well, you see what the left would have, what a leftist would have done?
What?
They would have immediately started yelling, "How dare you touch me!" You ever watch Fight Club?
Yes.
You know the scene where Edward Norton falls on the ground and starts punching himself in the face?
Yeah.
That's what the left does.
Yeah.
So then they walk out, and then people are like, "I saw him walk out with a black eye," and then you're like, "You're going to renew my contract." That's what they do.
Cry bullies.
Right. They say they accuse the boss of some kind of impropriety. They exploit the law, the EEOC, the labor rights and stuff like that. Whereas you and Honest Guy just went, "Well, I guess my contract's done. I guess I'll leave."
Yeah, but one thing I don't like is when people use the word "can't." That's really annoying when what it means is I don't want to. We don't want to, but we're like, we can't refer your contract. No, they could. They just chose not to.
They could have, but who am I? DC Comics was in all kinds of trouble. They were trying to sign with AT. I'm making excuses for them. They were trying to sell themselves to AT&T. They were trying to get good press, and the left was deliberately putting all this stuff in the media to make it look like they were employing white supremacists. They really didn't have, as a business, a choice, and I give them a pass. I do, because they've always been good to my family up until the end, and they're still writing me big royalty checks for movies like The Flash that are coming out.
Really?
Yeah,
that's cool.
That's
then.
nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
fine.
And they were
Well,
barely
so-
with AT&T for like a year before
then
getting
AT&T
sold again.
sold them off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't answer this if you can't.
Okay.
I'm curious. Maybe you can answer in a more general sense. So with the Flash movie, you're getting like a royalty from that somehow.
I'll bet. Yeah.
So I'm like, how does that? I want to avoid asking anything too personal, but I'm curious. Like a comic book artist who sees their work turned into a movie, like what kind of money can they make from that? Is it like a big deal? Is it like you're going to buy a mansion, or is it like you might pay a phone bill?
Oh. No, we bought our house from the Justice League royalties. So
From the movie.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So wait. How do you get royalties for that? Because when you drew the pictures, you have the right to that imagery?
So because of the insane exploitation of comic book creators throughout the years, basically, Steve Ditko doesn't own Spider-Man or Doctor Strange at all.
Yeah.
He's got none of that. He should be a billionaire,
Yeah.
and he died, just a regular middle-class fella. It doesn't make any sense. DC Comics kind of woke up to that idea, and they created an incentive program for their creators. If you just want to sit there and draw their characters, that's fine. You'll get a paycheck. But if you want to create something for them, like I always did, I always created new stuff for them. If they look at it and say, this is really good, we're going to be using this in other media, they'll send you an incentive contract that you sign that grants you a percentage of those media rights in perpetuity.
Wow. That's awesome.
In perpetuity.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah. So
Wow.
there are certain things like I own Iron Heights Prison. So whenever Flash sends a criminal to jail
No
and they
way.
think he's in Iron Heights, I get paid. So it's great. It's terrific.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I have to imagine it's like one instance in one media thing. It's the combined collection of all the different media mentioning it that makes it substantial. Like if
Video games are very substantial. I mean, yeah, the combined, that definitely matters. But movies and video games are insane. The royalties we get for video games are great.
I hear that
that's
for a
cool.
musician, if they can get their song into a movie, is when they can retire.
Yeah. I there was a friend of a friend. So someone I know knows a band that we would widely consider to be a one-hit wonder. And the guy, I think, made like $10 million off of one song that ended up in a commercial.
Yeah.
It was a very, very popular song. Most people may have remembered it from the 2000s. But like they told me the story where it's like this guy went from being a middle-class dude playing local shows, building up a following, making a decent living. Then one day a phone company bought a song from him, and then he just didn't know what to do, and he just had $10 million. Like the money just slapped his account, and he was like, okay, that's weird. And it kind of, in a sense, destroyed his life, as I'm told, in that a buddy of mine said that, when he first became very wealthy at a young age, he had an existential crisis because you don't know what to do. Everyone around you is in this machine. The relationships that you had were predicated upon like your work environment or your school environment, but now you've been removed from that, and you're just some dude who wanders around and doesn't have to work, where everyone else is like, the story is, he'd call up his friend on like a Monday afternoon and be like, hey, you want to go out to eat? And they'd be like, bro, I'm at work. And he'd go, oh, when do you get off? And they'd be like, I don't know, 6 or 7. Then I'm going home to see my family. And he'd go, oh.
So all you rich people out there, when you take your friends out to lunch or dinner or whatever, let them know before the meal that you're going to pay for it. It's so stressful to wonder the entire meal when you're broke.
Oh.
Am I going to have to pay for this? I don't know what I can order. So just let them know ahead of time. It's helpful.
And also, be wary of inviting your friends on trips to Europe. Like I've seen that way too much. Well, like people who are wealthier being like, you have any time this weekend? We're going to Prague. It's like, like, dude.
Is it on you?
Yeah, right. What are you asking me?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So I think people need to be cognizant. I think, I know a lot of people who grew up well off do not understand that's not a normal thing people do.
Right.
And also, I know exactly what you're talking about, Ian, because, when I worked for like these media companies, they'd be like, hey, let's go out to dinner. And they would bring people from from work who are making like maybe $80K a year, but they'd want to go to like a 5-star steakhouse and get like Wagyu or something. And then I'm just like, you realize you can't bring that, like, that's not nice. That's like a mean thing to do,
Yeah.
Anyway, what were we
it
talking
hasn't
about?
made you crazy, these royalties and the wealth attributed.
Well, I mean, maybe a little bit, but no. I mean, listen, it's really nice of them. I'm really happy that DC is taking care of more of their professional creators. And
Who's your favorite character you created?
I guess it's Atrocitus, just because he's so popular, and I don't know, I just like him. I got the idea. I was watching 28 Days Later. Remember those 28
Yeah, of
Days
course.
movies? Like the zombies just spit blood and their eyes are red and they're all of the mucous membrane and tears. It's all blood and red. And I just got this idea. This is the Red Lantern course. I'm sure you guys don't talk to many people like me. This is how I am. But here's the whole thing. Here's the fantasy. Imagine you are wronged in such a profoundly awful way. Somebody kills your wife, your kid, blah, blah, blah. You go through the legal system and nothing happens. You can't get your justice, right? And the guy's just laughing at you that did it. There he is. There's Atrocitus. And so you're so angry. Obviously, you're filled with this rage that you can't even comprehend. But then a little red ring flies down from outer space and looks at you and talks to you and says, put me on, and together we'll get the vengeance that you're looking for, that you deserve. Now, do you put the ring on? Do you do that? Because the minute you put the ring on, you are now overwhelmed with rage to the point where you're spitting up like red blood and energy and everything, and now you're entirely consumed by vengeance. You've become the Incredible Hulk, essentially. And yes, you get your revenge. You can go get this guy and punish him and destroy his whole world, but now you've lost your soul. And that's what the Red Lantern Corps is all about. Like, it's this Faustian bargain that comes with putting on the ring.
Can you take the ring off?
The ring leaves you when it's ready to be, when it's
jeez.
destroyed you. It's like it leaves you. Now, somebody like Atrocitus has just mastered the ring. He wears it all the time. It's never going to leave him. He's the leader of the Red Lantern Corps. See that symbol on his chest? Like that.
Let me ask you about, before all this stuff went down, did you notice in the industry, before your cancellation, an encroaching wokeness, cult-like mentality, stuff like that?
Yeah. But I didn't understand what it was. A lot of strange women. I hate to put it this way. Sorry, ladies. A lot of strange women kind of suddenly showed up in the comic book business and basically came at us with this criticism that this was clearly a boys' club. It was unsafe for women, and everything that you guys are putting out is sexist, and it's racist, and it's homophobic. And, well, we're going to fix that. If you hire us, and you should hire us, we're going to fix that, because if you don't hire us, you're sexist. So suddenly all of these women show up and they start basically making changes to this sort of male-dominated hobby. This is a male-driven culture. Obviously it is. These power fantasies are mostly for boys. But they started to make these changes. The women, suddenly, who used to be beautiful and curvaceous, we used to be able to glorify and exaggerate the female form. Suddenly, we had to cover them up. Breasts became smaller and smaller until they were just sort of pecs. There was actually a weird phenomenon called the uni-pec, which was just one breast with like a stretched cloth over it because you didn't even want to define breasts in any way in superheroes. And basically everybody got scared. And then this other thing happened. Because there were women in the workplace, of course, the men started flirting with the women. God help them. These guys started to ask girls on dates, and then the girls would say that that was sexual harassment, and that's when cancel culture really started. I saw some very talented guys get their lives turned upside down because they were stupid enough to ask so-and-so at the bar at a convention if she wanted to come up to their hotel room. And this wasn't like a power disparity. There was one case where an editor with a lot of power was putting his hands on women. I understand that. This was different. This was a case of peers. We're both creators. You're a female, I'm a male. I'm going to ask you on a date. I feel threatened if I say no to you. All of the stuff that happened. The Me Too hit comics pretty hard. So there was that whole situation which caused everybody to really get in line. You did not want to question these women. You didn't want to started to realize they were activists. You don't want to question these activists at all. Allow them to make these changes. And then the other thing that happened was there was a guy named Orson Scott Card, who was a very, very famous sci-fi author. And he's also Latter-day Saint. I was raised Mormon, so I know that he's Latter-day Saint, and so he shares the values that I was raised with. He came out and said he disagreed with gay marriage. He didn't think it was something, marriage was something between a man and a woman, and it was a holy, a holy thing. Gay marriage shouldn't be a thing. And then DC tried to hire him to do a Superman story, and the entire industry went crazy trying to get this Superman story, a short story by this legendary Orson Scott Card, look him up, legendary author, canceled. And that was an amazing thing to me. I was like, why can't we just publish the story? I don't understand why disagreeing with him about this one political idea means that he can't write a Superman story when everybody loves his work. So that's when I started to see woke creeping into comics. And, by the time 2015 rolled around, my peers were saying strange things to me. They were saying, you're a capitalist, you're a Republican, right, Ethan? You care about money. Imagine this, 50% of the country, 50% of the world is made up of women. And we're not marketing to them at all, are we? If we started marketing and changing these comics to appeal to more women and hiring more women, you understand what would happen? We would double our income. We would double our revenue. And you, as somebody who cares about money because you're a capitalist, and I was like, aren't we all capital? No, we're not. Okay, just me. That means something to you, I'm sure. And that was the philosophy. That was the big lie that allowed comics to come in and become woke, I think. From there, you hire activists, they hire more activists, and the whole thing erodes from the inside.
And then people stop buying.
Yeah, when you want to appeal to women, then the guys maybe are not getting appealed to. Like, you can't appeal to both, I would think. You might be able to.
It's even weirder than that. Lego did a study, which I always cite, and this is amazing. I don't think anybody's thought of it this way, but Lego was wondering why girls don't play with Lego toys. They're boys, but they're not really gender-based. They're just bricks. So why are little boys playing with Legos, but girls aren't? Why is that? So they got a study together. They got 2,500 kids, 1,250 boys, 1,250 girls, and their parents. And they put Lego figurines, let's just say a Batman Lego set, in front of these kids. And they just studied how these boys and girls played with their Lego toys to try to figure out what the missing problem was. What's the missing piece? Well, the boys pick up Batman, pick up a little Batman figurine, and they become Batman. That's the whole thing. Like they take on those traits. They imagine they're Batman, and that's how boys fantasize. That's how boys play. Meanwhile, the little girls pick up Batman, and Batman becomes them. They project themselves onto Batman, and suddenly Batman is acting like they are.
Wow.
Which is why Barbie is so popular. What's Barbie's personality? Who's Barbie? She's whoever the little girl who's playing with Barbie is.
We were just talking about that yesterday. Boys pretend that they are He-Man, and girls pretend that Barbie is them.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wow.
I used to do that with G.I. Joes. I would become the guy, Duke or Scarlet or whoever the character, and we would act like me and Steve. We'd set them all up, and then I'd be like, I'm coming! And he's like, no, look out, ah! And he'd be the Cobra Commander, and like we were acting as the characters. I didn't know I've never put my personality onto a doll before.
It's why they say where a lot of the representation stuff comes in. It's a feminine trait that's been learned by males to look at representation as if they have to see their exact selves in another character.
I don't know if when I played with Legos and stuff, if I became the character or whatever. Like if I was playing with Batman, Batman was doing Batman stuff. You know what I mean? Like I would have like Batman and like Cyclops, and Batman would be like.
But Tim, you knew who they were. You understand?
They were themselves.
They were themselves.
Yeah, they were not me. Batman
you were
was Batman.
acting as them, which is why, as a male.
Well, I mean, like this is what I'm trying to say. Like, I wasn't going like, I'm Batman and I will fight you. It was like I have Batman, Cyclops, and Batman would be like, yeah, like so. They were two distinct characters of themselves that I would have do battle when I was.
Were any of them you?
No.
Okay. See, that's the whole thing.
That's what I'm saying. Like, not that I would be like, I am Batman and like walk around and project myself and as like Batman becomes me. I'm saying like. I would view them as their characters.
Of course.
But for the girls, you're saying like they would be like, look, Jenny would be playing with Batman. She'd be like, this is Jenny. So she'd have the Batman doll, and it would be called Jenny, and that would be her, like that kind of thing.
Pretty much. I mean, like whatever a little girl's aspirations are, she'll project them onto Barbie.
Does Barbie have distinct traits? Like Batman has Bruce Wayne. Batman has parents. You know what I'm saying? Does Barbie have distinct traits that they would even be able to quantify other than what their physical appearance is?
Deliberately, no.
Yeah,
exactly. That's why it's so successful. So now imagine. I don't think men and women change as they grow older in that way. That's a big difference between men and women. So now imagine that you're a creative person who's writing Batman. Now men just go, okay, well, I'm going to write Batman as I know Batman. He's going to be Batman. He's not going to be me. I don't want to put myself into Batman. He's going to be Batman. I'm going to do the best Batman story I can do. These ladies, Batman starts getting sassy. They start to write Batman with more of their own traits. And soon, before you know it, it's like these characters are unrecognizable. They're sitting around having coffee in bars and having chit-chat and stuff. And they seem to be unable to actually, and I'm not saying all of them, there are some ladies who are great, Ann Nocenti, shout out, Louise Simonson, great writers, but many of them are just, projecting themselves onto these characters, and maybe it's because they really just don't care that much.
Are there specific examples of character, like a character you can think of that was I guess say feminized. I don't know if that's the right word. We're kind of talking about like masculine and feminine behaviors, not necessarily men and women.
Yeah.
But like,
Well, I'll tell you one thing I don't like, and I don't know if this is actually a remnant of this, but you saw the Batman film?
Yes.
I absolutely hated it.
Really?
Because
the new one.
The new one.
I think me and you were the only people that didn't like it.
Because Batman was totally incompetent. It didn't make sense for his character. Batman is something to behold because he is the best of us. He is a human being who utilizes the best technology, strategy. So to create but it's Batman early on. He was dumb as a box of rocks.
no, he's always had 10 intelligence.
Was it recently?
Not in
where
that movie. That's the point. In the
he's
movie,
the-
they made
he's
him
the
really
smartest
stupid.
superhero.
And when he's jumping off the building and he falls and gets hurt, I'm like, and then you had the woke Selena Kyle white privilege thing. Like, they just ruined what Batman was.
That line was particularly bad because the rest of the movie's dialogue was written to be completely evergreen, meaning that it could have taken place at any time. So even if you haven't taken a bathroom break by the time you're at the 2 hour and 37-second point of this extremely overly long and overly self-indulgent art piece, masquerading as a superhero flick, that line just takes you out of it completely.
Question, Ethan, did you notice when the women would come in and start to change the system, did they have kids? Or were they childless?
They're childless, largely, yes.
Something that someone pointed out is that women that aren't mothers tend to try to mother society.
Yep.
They get into HR and they'll try and mother the company. They'll try and like protect and nurture and change and like, no, that's racist. Do it this way. Do it this.
I'll give you my experience working with women. It's very interesting. I worked in an office and I was the only male manager, and the office was having problems, and so revenue was down. My approach was, our revenue is dropping. If we do not reassess and restructure what we are doing, we will cease to exist. Their attitude was, no, everyone bunker down, huddle together, and we'll wait out the storm. And I thought that was interesting because it was like the women were adamant. We're going to keep doing exactly what we're doing and just tighten up. And my attitude was, it's not working anymore. This strategy does not work. We have to adapt. So I wonder if that's an element of a difference in the male and female. The male, we have to go out, take the risk, and go on an adventure. And theirs was, I mean, think about it in terms of like an old tribal situation. The women wanting to huddle together in the cave to protect each other, and the men wanting to go out and venture off and try and find new sources of food, or some way to solve the problem. That's what it kind of felt like to me.
Fascinating.
Did you watch the movie Prey on Hulu? It was the Predator remake that they did last year with the girl. And I was one of the few people that didn't like it because I said her motivation at the time period when that movie came out made no sense, that she wanted to go to be a hunter just to prove she can. I'm like, that's not realistic, and nobody would be. Let's
address the male-female motivation. Captain America versus Captain Marvel. I love this breakdown. Have you seen both movies, I imagine, right?
Yeah.
Captain America. Let's talk about the cultural success, and I want everyone to understand this, and I want you to tell your friends, and I want you to buy the movie, and I want you to somehow make the movie number one on Netflix or whatever. Captain America is a Marvel film from about 10 years. It was 10 years ago, right?
More than that now.
It's about a scrawny, developmentally, physically...
A weakling.
A weakling.
Born with a weak heart, perhaps.
Someone suffering from many physical ailments who is so desperate to fight for his country, to help others, that he tries to cheat his way into the military. And he is of such strong heart, he is chosen for the super soldier program. So here's a guy of good moral character, standing, and honor, who wants to serve his country, fight against the bad guys, and sacrifice whatever it takes for his community. He defends his friends by fighting in the streets. And then there's that scene where he jumps on the grenade. His motivation is to sacrifice himself for everyone else.
Self-sacrifice.
Self-sacrifice.
Yep.
Captain Marvel's motivation was to benefit herself and to be able to do whatever she wanted. Captain America, his whole motivation is we don't trade lives. We're not going to sacrifice one for any. He's a deontological moralist. Thanos is utilitarian. Thanos wants to kill half the universe, save half the life. Captain America says we don't trade lives. Captain Marvel robs a guy in the beginning of the movie. He says you should smile. So she steals his clothes and his motorcycle. Think about that motivation. That is the woke feminist motivation of I can do whatever I want. Then think about the other character motivations. Jude Law's character says, control your emotions. And then finally at the end, she goes, no! And that is her ultimate motivation. The story arc for her is she can do whatever she wants because she's powerful, and she shouldn't have to listen to any man who tells her to control herself. Captain America's motivation is, I will die for you so you can live a better life. It is the Hillary Clinton quote personified when she said, women are the real victims of war because their husbands and their brothers and their sons die. That exemplifies it perfectly.
That's amazing. Self-sacrifice versus self-validation. That is the difference between the way I was taught to write and draw superheroes and the way superheroes are being presented today. Right there. Everything is all of these new superheroes that are coming out of Marvel, they're all selfie-taking, self-aggrandizing narcissists.
Eating lunch and dinner together at diners.
That's what they're doing. There's no... my book Cyberfrog says in the very first couple of pages, he just says, because people don't like him, he's ugly, he's Cyberfrog. So he says, I've found something to love about humans and I'm willing to die for them, and that's the thing. That's heroism to me.
How many modern superheroes are stories of young kids who wish they had superpowers?
Modern ones, not too many.
You don't think so?
I'm not sure. Well, maybe. Who are you thinking about?
I'm thinking about the Captain Marvel.
Ms. Marvel?
Miss Marvel.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a story of like, wow, I've got superpowers and I'm going to be an Avenger too.
Well, that's the meta nature of Hollywood now, that everything has to be meta.
Shazam.
And Shazam. No, not so much. Not so much.
You don't think he wanted the wizard's powers?
That he got pulled in and brought into it. It was different. I'm thinking about Miss Marvel specifically, and I was thinking about Miles Morales, in the new Into the Spider-Verse. He's like, wow, I got spider powers too. And then I was thinking about growing up watching X-Men, and in X-Men, typically the kids who got powers were panicked and scared and didn't want it to happen, and the parents were freaking out. And the story with the X-Men stuff I grew up on was it was actually bad to be a mutant. Yeah. It was scary, it was bad, and they weren't happy about it. It was often depicted as like your mutant powers were a curse, not a gift. And then Charles Xavier would be like, no, don't worry. Like, I'm going to help you through this. Nowadays, the mentality among younger people is more so like, I want to
give me power.
Give me power.
Yeah.
I felt like DC was all maybe not always, but I didn't read a lot of DC, but it felt like DC was more just about raw power and Marvel was about psychological stuff. Did you guys get that vibe?
Yeah, DC Comics was
I like DC better.
Aspirational heroes to look up to, heroes to feel hope. They're going to save you. See, that's the thing I love about Superman, that they flopped with the new movies. I mean, when you see Christopher Reeve, everything's going to be okay. You're like, oh, Superman's here, finally. I'm terrified of the Man of Steel version of Superman from the Zack Snyder movies.
Can I just complain about the scene in Batman v Superman where Batman is about to, kill Superman, and then he's like, you're letting him kill Martha, and then Batman goes, your mom's name is Martha? My mom's name is Martha too.
As if anybody actually calls their mom by their name.
What should have happened, and I'll say it every single time, is that when Batman had the spear to Superman's neck, what would have made it work is then Batman sang the famous line, let this be the day you never forget, the day I defeated you, and then
they should have just recreated that scene from,
and then he throws the spear
series
away, and he says, my intention was always to make sure you knew you were not invincible, not to actually kill you. And then it would be like, damn, but instead he was like, my mom's name's Martha too. Want to be friends? I was like,
So
oh
embarrassing.
no. Yes, it
he
was.
basically said, like, I could have made it out of a stronger mix of kryptonite. I could have made this far stronger and killed you much easier if I wanted to.
Yeah, it should have been. He proved his point.
Yeah.
It was never because Batman's not a murderer.
Yeah.
He wouldn't arbitrarily want to kill Superman. His point was to make sure Superman knew he wasn't a god.
Yeah.
Instead.
All this like my mother is your mother, we're brothers. All this crap, this like nepotism is like European monarchies. They're all cousins. Like it's a bunch of this crap. It's like psychological manipulation to make you think it is some value if the guy's your brother. If he's an idiot, he's an idiot.
This is what I was always told is that Marvel was people trying to be heroes and DC was heroes trying to be people.
There you go.
So like, I noticed watching the Justice League cartoons, they always refer to each other as their first given names. Batman doesn't call Superman Superman, he calls him Clark.
Clark.
Clark calls him Bruce. They refer to each other as people, but they are heroes. And then the interesting thing is Superman's identity is Superman, Kal-El, and his secret identity is Clark Kent. Whereas in Marvel, often it's like Peter Parker is the person and his secret identity is, or like his, the costume is Spider-Man, whereas for Superman, the costume is Clark Kent. You know what I mean?
Who are your guys' favorite superhero of all time?
Superman. He just is the definitive hero. I believe
I think
in
Batman.
him.
Batman.
You like Batman better?
That's why I was really disappointed by the movie. I love the comic fan trope of given enough time, Batman can defeat anyone.
God, they called that at DC. They called it Batman with enough planning.
But I feel like
Yeah.
Superman could kill Batman at any time if he wanted to.
Nope,
He just
Batman
blasts
carries
him from-
kryptonite.
Yeah, but he blasts him from orbit.
Technically, I would say technically, but I guess the issue is there are a lot of super powerful villains who are on par with Superman that haven't been able to take down Batman because Batman is a figment of our imagination. What makes him a good character is his ability to survive and overcome with no superpowers. That's why I like Batman. Granted, he's a very, very rich dude, and he's able to buy this stuff. It is what it is.
The fantasy is we could be Batman.
Yep.
We could train ourselves. We could have enough money. We could be Batman. That's the whole thing.
But you can't, fly. You can't do those things. Batman's just a dude, but he's a martial artist. He trains right. He eats right. He gets beat up. He gets injured sometimes. He gets his back broken, and he rises back up to the challenge. That's a superhero, man. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
I mean,
agree.
early Batman was silly, and they made him really amazing throughout the years. I really love the history of how like the golden age of comics was kind of hokey. Superman could fire little Supermans from his hand. Did you know that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes no sense. Whatever.
They invented new powers all the time in the Silver Age. Yeah, it's whatever.
Oh, yeah, the Silver Age.
The 80s.
No, Silver Age was from like the 50s to the 70s. I think the early 70s.
It was the Golden Age before that.
Golden Age was the 1930s or late 30s to the early 50s.
But I want to say the 80s is when things I think got really mature and the writing got really good. And then actually I think one of the most profound moments in comics, but I guess it's technically cartoons, is the Mr. Freeze, the story arc, the retconning of his history in the Batman animated series. Mm-hmm. I think the first cartoon to ever win an Emmy. And that was, was it really that the first, maybe not the first time, but one of the first times a villain's story arc was sympathetic? It used to be all one-dimensional. I'm going to rule the world. I deserve power.
That's what I love about the old Batman, the animated series. It's actually super anti-corporate. All of them are just generic corporate villains, but Mr. Freeze was actually a fairly three-dimensional character, given the story with his wife and that.
Wasn't Clayface's story in the animated series that he was a guy who was negatively impacted by a cosmetic product that turned him into a monster?
There were a bunch of different Clayfaces. One was an actor,
Yeah.
I think there were like 5 different Clayfaces.
He was like, he put on a cosmetic and then his skin started to melt. He was like,
Man-Bat was great in that too.
Man-Bat was great.
Man-Bat
yeah,
was
but it's Mr. Freeze, right?
Mr. Freeze.
Like, he was always one-dimensional, and then they made his story arc that his wife was dying, and he would stop at nothing to save her life. And then you're like, you feel bad because he's a bad guy.
Plus, his delivery on all that dialogue in that episode is so good.
Yeah,
they should do an arc where he gets an honorary degree from Harvard, and then they call him. He's like, I'm Dr. Freeze now. Like, no, you're not. That's not even a real degree. I'm just kidding. I mean,
now what's gonna just wait. There's gonna be a comic that comes out soon where Mr. Freeze teams up with Greta Thunberg to reduce the
They'll
global
do that.
temperature.
She got
They
the
did
honorary
the-
degree.
No, that's why I brought it up.
Don't give
Marvel
them
and
ideas
DC
like that, please.
No, please. I hope they keep producing this garbage and they destroy themselves. And then, your comics, all caps.
We're here. ComicsGate's here to step in, and that's a good. See, we love comic books. I could talk about this all day long. I grew up with these superheroes. I love these superheroes. I've been a creator. I've worked on these superheroes for most of my life now. But unfortunately, the way things are at Marvel and DC, they're inhospitable.
Remember,
People who are on
what
the
was that
right.
super woke comic they made with Safe Space and
It never came
New
out,
Warriors.
and they should have done it.
They never released it.
Oh, they never released that.
What is it? What is it? The New
Snowflake?
Warriors?
I think
Yeah,
so.
New Warriors. I wonder if that was a joke. Like, I feel like that whole thing was a hoax.
Definitely became one.
Yeah, it sure
Oh,
did.
what a horrible concept.
Look at
Bunch
this.
of
Okay, for those that don't know, you need to understand that the hugging brother and sister, right? They were brother and sister.
Yeah.
Snowflake and Safe Space.
And one of them they actually
and
described. One of them they actually describe as being a stereotypical jock. Which I've never seen a stereotypical jock with pink hair, but that's just me.
Wait. The best one is the Dora the Explorer.
Yep.
Trailblazer.
Yep.
Is that what they called her?
A chubby Inuit. Yeah.
Who had a backpack that she could pull anything out of?
And the
Yeah.
other one
It's
had.
Dora the Explorer.
And the other one is powered by internet gas.
Yeah, the internet. What were?
Oh yeah, that guy with the
This
green
had to
visor.
have been a joke.
It was
huh?
a troll. It must have been.
It wasn't.
Because
Not
they
as bad as
should've-
Gotham High.
Look, it's on the
They should've
website
released it.
introducing.
Yeah, it's real.
I mean, if they had released it, people would have bought that. I would have bought that.
This is an important story for those that don't understand the culture war. What happened, in my opinion, is that Marvel started getting a bunch of emails saying you need to do this, and then someone went to a board meeting and said, "This is what kids want. You gotta sell a product they'll buy." And they went, "You're right." Then they made it, and they got roasted. They said, "We don't understand. They're emailing us saying they want this," because they don't realize it is a cult of annoying, loud people, and they wasted tons of money, and they're destroying themselves by supporting this.
But they don't buy. It's not kids buying these comics, right? The majority of the large scale audience is still men in their 30s, in their 40s and 50s
It's
now.
us, yeah.
And that's the problem, right?
Kids have moved on to manga. I mean,
Yeah.
the kids,
Exactly.
the teenagers
Yeah.
are buying manga now. We lost 2 generations to manga.
From crappy storylines.
Yeah, but it's
I don't know, maybe.
it's because manga storylines are better. I grew up on Batman and DC animated series, Justice League, and X-Men, and all that stuff. And then when it started getting bad, I just went straight to manga stuff, where the storylines were still good. Dragon Ball Z, I grew up with that as well. And so then as I'm getting older, and look, I'm a big fan of Static Shock, but it was preachy. It was okay. I liked the show, but it was very preachy. Then I see Naruto, and the only preaching in it is, try and save your enemies. Like the character arc for Naruto is that I absolutely love this writing. Some of the best writing ever done. Have you ever read or watched Naruto? So I'll give you the very quick breakdown to the best of my abilities. For those that aren't familiar, Naruto is about a world where there are ninjas and they can use inner energy called chakra to do, I guess you'd call them spells. Anyway, Naruto is an orphan. His dad died sacrificing himself to save their village. Naruto finds a teacher, a guy named Jiraiya, who's this legendary ninja.
I would call them techniques instead of spells.
But they throw fireballs and stuff. Yeah, and they can walk on water. And so anyway, Naruto gets a teacher. He's this old creepy guy. He's a pervert. He wrote several books. He wrote these books because he was inspired throughout his life. Naruto eventually encounters a villain in the story arc who goes by the name of Pain, and they fight. And you find out that this guy Pain's real name is Nagato, and he is a former pupil of Jiraiya, the same teacher Naruto now has. And then after this great battle, Naruto is on the verge of defeating this guy. And then he says this famous line of, I will save the world or something like this. He's like, I'm going to be the hero and make my enemies my friends, and I'm going to not allow the pain. And it was a direct quote from Jiraiya, his teacher, who wrote this book about a character, and Jiraiya had been quoting his pupil. So basically what happens is when Jiraiya's younger, he trains this kid who's idealistic, wants to save the world, who says this inspiring line as a 13-year-old. Jiraiya is so moved by it, he writes this book, which is, he then teaches Naruto. And so I love this because the villain is now facing down this younger, ninja who says his own quote back to him, realizing he's become the villain he swore to fight. And Naruto now embodies his past ideals and ideology. I'm like, that was just brilliant.
Wow.
Writing. It was really, really good.
That's terrific.
I can't do it justice. You have to read it. But basically, he says the line, and then the villain's like, that's my quote. You're saying it to me. That's who I used to be.
That's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be teaching lessons like that in comics. We're not supposed to, be trying to instill politics or ideology in anyone. We're just supposed to be teaching kids basic morals like that, how to be a hero. self-sacrifice, put others before you. Yet save the villain, of course.
There's very little of that, like you mentioned earlier with Captain Marvel. That's the funniest part about that. Is it's so simple to understand. Well, not everything, but it's so simple to understand that Captain America telling a story of self-sacrifice and wanting to help his fellow man, and even the idea that you could even tell a story now about an idealistic person wanting to protect or wanting to serve his country, they probably wouldn't even do that story anymore.
Let's talk about the first big three of Marvel. Iron Man, a military industrialist who's selling weapons for profit, has a profound experience and realizes his weapons are being sold to both sides, causing this conflict, and then says, I'm not doing this anymore. And it destroys his company. So he builds himself a suit of armor to take into his own hands, and then he fights the military industrial complex warmonger, Ironmonger, to stop it from happening. And then the company does better than ever. They do renewable energy power. Like, that is an amazing arc of a guy who had everything and was this cocky a-hole, who still is, but he then decides it's not worth it to be a part of this problem. Captain America, scrawny young guy, wants to serve his country. We should talk about the cultural victories that the first Marvel movies are. Then Thor, an arrogant prince who has everything, gets his powers taken from him and comes to realize humility. I'm like, these are great character arcs.
That's Stan Lee.
But
yeah,
I mean,
Stan Lee, I mean, those are his stories. You understand, like, we don't have guys like that anymore. You want to know why Marvel is in the rut that it is? It's because Stan Lee's gone. Why is Disney the way it is? Walt Disney's gone. Why is Star Wars the way it is? George Lucas sold it. I mean, there are rare creative geniuses that come along and they have the heart and the empathy to be able to write stories that touch people in a unique way and build their childhoods. And then when they leave or they die, J.R.R. Tolkien, gone, then other people parasitically inherit it and destroy it.
These are people who are forged in a world surrounded by war.
That's absolutely
the
true.
lessons being told. Now what we have are people who are forged by gluttony.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We were talking about
writing stories of what they're owed.
When we were reviewing Prey, we were talking about how nobody in this movie looks like they've lived through anything actually difficult in their entire life. Nobody looks like they've lived in the wilderness. Nobody looks like they've ever had to hunt for any type of food in their life, right? So people are trying to write stories now from a world that they just can't understand.
But Stan Lee, was he Silver Age? Was he around in the early days?
Yeah. Stan Lee was interesting because
World War II veteran. Sorry,
World War II veteran. Yeah, he was around in the Golden Age too, but the Silver Age, he launched it. He really did launch the Silver Age, even though before there was Flash and Green Lantern, Hal Jordan that really launched the Silver Age. But Stan Lee was so disgusted by the politics of comics in the 1950s with the Comics Code and the way things had become so silly that he just wanted to quit. And he told his wife, I'm so inspired by this. He told his wife he wanted to quit, and his wife said, just do one your way. Before you quit, 1961's Fantastic Four #1. That was him doing it his way. Launched the Marvel Revolution. That's when the Silver Age really
Stan Lee enlisted in 1942 after the attack on Pearl Harbor.
What a guy.
What a guy.
It's one of the things,
What a
like,
guy, man.
gone are the days. There used to be dozens and dozens of actors, all who had served in the military, who had extensive military, whether through draft or because they enlisted because they believed in that country. And as that generation of people has died off, you start seeing that less and less of the stories, less and less of our culture's empathy towards its own country is gone. We talk about this every time an actor passes away that was older, right? It's like they were born at a time when there was a relative amount of support for America and they believed in their country and they believed in what it stood for. Now, I believe a lot of that has kind of been manufactured in a lot of ways by the media and that there's a lot of problems there, but you don't see that anymore. I think like Adam Driver's like the only one I can think of off the top of my head that's a newer age actor that served in the military, and you just don't see that. And it's going to lead to even more anti-American storytelling, whether it's in comics or in film and television.
You know what's interesting about manga is that there is a common trope. Black Clover. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
Another really great show, really great manga. I stopped after a while, but in this world, not everybody, but many people will get a magic grimoire and magic abilities. So one day a grimoire comes to you, and then you have your book of spells, and you can cast certain spells and certain elements. There's one kid who really wants to be a magic knight and work for he wants to join the service basically, but he has no magic powers. So you know what he does? He works out until he's so incredibly powerful that when he's in these when he's in the trials to become, a knight or whatever, he has no spells, but he just he's extremely powerful. Like he jumps and the ground cracks and he shoots in the air super fast, and they're like, what? When they first see him with no magic, they're like, what a pathetic loser. How could he even try and bother? But then he's so physically powerful that he actually ends up winning. And then there's an arc where a book does appear to him. It's an anti-magic book. He gets a sword. And all of his capabilities are basically his physical ability to wield it. There's other arcs too, like anti-magic and stuff. But the general idea was you can work hard. And if you do, you can be a magic knight hero
It's the Rocky story. I mean,
Right.
It works every single time it's tried. Just a normal guy who's determined, he's an underdog, the underdog story. He works his way up, and through hard work, through diligence, and through faith, all of these things, he becomes a hero, and self-sacrifice. You can tell that story over and over and over again. He beats unbeatable odds, just out of sheer will and determination. Nobody's ever going to get tired of that. You could tell that story with a million different characters. They're doing it in Japan right now. That's why they're kicking our ass. They're raising our kids.
Right. I
Their
mean,
culture.
look, I like it. I think a lot of it is really great. Not all of it. Some of it's stupid. Not everything is perfect. Bleach, for instance, also very, very, very good. The more of a reluctant thrust into adventure hero's journey. Still great story, great ideas. You're not getting beaten over the head with the preaching.
Yeah.
It seems like I'm thinking about the age of comics. We had the Golden Age, we had the Silver Age, which ended with the 70s. Is that about right?
Yeah. Then the Bronze Age was the 70s through the 1980s. People are saying what this is today is called the Iron Age.
That's funny.
A term.
It's getting worse.
It's rusty.
No. The Iron Age. The Iron Age is really, independent creators rising up and taking over the culture because we have no choice.
I would like to see a Diamond Age, if possible. We're on the verge of graphene anyway.
Also, remember,
Pure
a lot
carbon.
of those characters and a lot of these amazing stories
Iron Age.
were written at a time when these were not major conglomerates that were homogenizing their storytelling down to the most basic, safe, and inoffensive model that they could make for people to watch. So people were willing to take risks with their storytelling in a way that they're not willing to do anymore, or the ones that aren't getting jobs by these corporate conglomerates that are selling these major properties.
Yeah, let's talk about taking risks,
Yeah.
Ethan, because I want to
Yes.
hear about Cyberfrog too. What's the story? Who is he?
Okay. So Cyberfrog is the story of an invasion, an alien swarm of hornets that goes from world to world and just takes over and destroys. They're the ultimate parasites. They live in these gigantic hive ships that are made of the desiccated and digested flesh of a million alien races. And they're coming to Earth to make their last stand. And the oxygen-rich atmosphere of Earth is going to allow them to be strengthened and unbeatable. There's a world out there called Perdonia that has survived this. They're the only world that was able to fend off the Vespis. And we don't know how yet. But they get this idea to send an agent with a secret power to planet Earth that'll be able to fend off the Vespis and stop them. Within this being is the ability to push back the Vespis and destroy their invasion. That person ends up being Cyberfrog. Through a sheer accident, he accidentally becomes a frog and a machine, Cyberfrog, but he still has the power to stop this invasion, except that he fails. The year's 1998, Bill Clinton gives his speech confessing that he lied to the American people, and right then, August 16th, 1998, the invasion hits. Bill Clinton's pulled away from the cameras, and the entire world is swarmed by these hornets. And
I don't want to get too much spoilers, but just as an incentive, I'm on page 3, and a guy explodes.
yeah,
Are they I don't want to. Yeah, I also don't want to spoil anything. Are they mechanical horn? Are they
no,
artificial?
they're alien hornets. They are very large, super intelligent alien hornets. That what they do is they chew up they see humans as cattle, livestock. They chew up human beings and their bones with their saliva. They can make paper like hornets make nests. They paper over our cities with our own bodies, and they can change with their saliva, change our blood into honey to feed their young. First book's called Blood Honey because of that. So that's the situation. Cyberfrog is absolutely obliterated in the first issue. He has to go into regenerative hibernation. wakes up in the year 2018, and the Vespis have just dominated planet Earth. Humanity's been basically torn to shreds. Like 90% of humans are gone. 10% of them are still around and hiding. And that's where Wreck Planet picks up. It is Cyberfrog alone versus the entire world. So Cyberfrog 2, Wreck Planet. It is a hero's journey. Cyberfrog in that book asks himself how he can make a change. Like, how do I begin to change this? How do I begin to fix this? And, his best friend, Heather Swain, is living in the woods. She survived those 20 years. She has a daughter now who lost her father. And he just realizes that step one is to try to take the frown off of this little girl's face and try to make her life better. Step in for dad and sort of, make her life happier. And that's the first way to kind of save humanity.
This is episode 2 of 4. Is that right?
2 of 4, but I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
The next one's called Red Extermination. I'm launching that one on the 4th of July, Independence Day.
Now, certainly going independent and leaving the big successful industry, you certainly you're not making lots of money off of this venture, I'd imagine.
First one made $1.2 million. The second one made $1.45 million.
Oh, so it's actually doing better.
It's doing great. This is crowdfunding. And this is the wonderful thing about it. Like, the comic book industry doesn't have any incentive to make the comics that people want because their parent companies are paying for them.
We talk about that a lot. We're in the post-profit age for a lot of these companies that, especially for comics, I think for Warner Brothers, it's a write-off. Like
they don't care.
They don't know.
They're
like
doing
they're
whatever
like,
they want
I
to do.
guarantee you, Zaslav's like, we have a comics division. Holy, he's like, you mean the written ones? Holy crap!
They
not
see
the movies.
their comics. Comics are just sort of going to reflect the political stances of their parent companies, and that's a reason to keep them around for ESG purposes, et cetera, et cetera. But we at ComicsGate, and ComicsGate is basically the term that describes an affiliation of comic book creators and fans who are tired of woke in comics. We love comic books. We're not going to support the mainstream anymore with our money. We're going to make our own comics, and we're going to use social media to promote these comics and crowdfunding to be able to fund them.
Now, I do want to say there are some really funny spoofs of manga. There's one called Walmite. So are you familiar with My Hero Academia?
Yeah.
So it's Donald Trump as, like the main guy, All Might.
Right.
It's called Walmite.
Yeah, I
And then
remember that.
There's a couple of other ones that are really funny. Oh, yeah, the One Punch Man spoof. I can't remember which that one was. We have them over in the other room. I don't have to look at them, but they're really funny.
I'm looking at Cyberfrog's first appearance in 1994 in Hall of Heroes.
So when I first started in comics, that was the whole thing. Now, I did about 10 issues, 12 issues of Cyberfrog in the 1990s and then went to work for DC. So what's so wonderful about this is the idea of bringing a character that was created with enthusiasm in the 1990s. It's very meta. And trying to make him work in 2018 in a world that's infested with woke. The Vespis are the woke, you understand? So, you've got a character who's used to existing and thriving in a world of Deadpool and the sarcasm and the ultra-violence, and he wakes up in 2018 where the world has been utterly taken over by these creatures that disrespect everything that humanity built. Philadelphia looks even worse now. You can see it on the first page of the book. You can see what Philadelphia, open it up and look, next page. Boom, that's Philly. Aren't you glad you left?
Yes. That's amazing art, man. That's crazy.
Thank
that he
you.
drew all
Those
this.
powers like jumping? Can he jump super high?
Yeah, he can jump. He's got a tongue. Those are his natural
nice.
abilities. But like the whole thing is, he's got his mother is a spaceship, a living spaceship, who represents the internet. And when they're connected together, he can rapid evolve and change his body to meet any threat. She's been taken out by the Vespis. He's offline through this entire book, and therefore he has to rely on his natural abilities.
So the cyber aspect is connected to the mothership?
That's correct. Yeah. And of course that represents the internet and communication and all that stuff. The whole thing is
I guess the issue that I see with all of this is if we make stuff because we like it, we're a bunch of old dudes. How do we get this stuff to younger people to inspire them and share the ideas and ideology that will make their lives better?
I think you get through to the parents, and then they end up watching it with their kids sitting on their lap.
I'm seeing more of that. I'm seeing a lot of friends of mine who love old comics, love old media, they're not watching new Star Trek with their kids. They're watching old Star Trek with their kids.
Well, hold on a second. I don't think there's any reason to be really afraid. Understand, we have the internet.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the internet. They didn't have that in the early 1990s or anything like that. I mean, people were dependent on these big corporations to get their comics out to people. I'm on your show right now. I'm probably, people are buying Cyberfrog because I'm telling them about it. We have this mass communication device where we can potentially speak to 7 billion people. There shouldn't be any reason to stop us. There shouldn't be a way to stop us.
People got to watch the next generation with their kids.
Yeah.
Oh, Star Trek Next Gen?
Yeah.
The best.
I
The
think
best Star Trek, in my opinion.
I think part
Although
of it
I haven't seen them all.
also, Ethan, is that people need to learn to, the ones who want to go out on their own are going to have to understand there's going to be more work, that you don't have the infrastructure that's built up through these mega corporations they do the printing, they do the packaging, they do all this stuff. It's going to be more work, but you'll reap more of a reward, and you'll be able to keep the profits because you own the IP.
Yeah, the IP is owning the IP is
You
amazing.
own your own material.
I own Cyberfrog outright, which is the first thing that I've actually owned entirely by myself, which is great. It is a lot of work.
A lot of
I was going to say we talked about this like a year ago, that we wanted to launch some kind of comic or manga style portal for Timcast.com, and I've talked to a few people, and the challenge is the amount of work that goes in. Like you said, how many years did it take to make this?
2 years to make that, 1 year to fund it, and in between we made action figures and a bunch of other stuff as well. I should have bought some.
Like in order to actually make a subscription based like weekly thing is a tremendous undertaking. Like how many people would you need to put something together like a chapter
I
every
wouldn't
week?
be able to
Amazon
draw it
owned-
myself. I might be able to write it, but it's not the production, it's the fulfillment. Because we don't have the direct market. Cyberfrog isn't in comic book stores. If you want to buy Cyberfrog, you can look on Google, look up Cyberfrog Dark Harvest. That's the next book on Indiegogo. You can back it there. We basically have to ship everything by hand. But the great thing about crowdfunding is there's no real possibility of loss. How many issues that you're going to need to make. You know how much money you have to spend. I knew I had $1.5 million to spend. I was able to make PVC toys to give away for free, trading cards, bonus comics that came with that for like $25 is the lowest level to back at. And the book looks like that. You don't see comics like that anymore.
Yeah, it's like a
We can
foil
kick their
cover.
asses.
Are you guys?
this
Is
way.
there like a universe of heroes?
Yeah, there's going to be. I'm building it out.
Oh, dude.
I'm building it out.
I'm so
Cyberfrog
in.
can't do it alone.
I
Need
think
a
the
psychic
ones-
gorilla from space.
But it's too close to
Gorilla
Garad.
Garad?
Yeah.
I think
know, I
that
don't
it's
know.
like the people that are going to be successful are going to be the ones that are business minded, and
Yeah.
a lot of them, I think, the ones that might be working they feel attached to DC, Marvel, even IDW. It's like they feel like they need to stay there because they need the infrastructure, and they don't. But they're just going to have to put in the work. And another part of it is like you've had to become your own promotional arm. A lot of them might not want to be doing live streams, might not want to be out there promoting their stuff, so they feel like they're stuck at these companies because they don't know how to do
That's
the
what
promotional
ComicsGate
aspect.
is meant to do. ComicsGate, you've got loudmouths like me, and I'll come over. Tim will be nice enough to let me come on his show and talk ComicsGate. ComicsGate.org. Go to that website. You'll see a bunch of other creators who have similar stories. We have to promote each other. We have to do this as a group. We can't do it as individuals. And hashtag ComicsGate.
What's the biggest difference in like your daily activities since you've left the big companies, started your own? What does a day look like as opposed to what it used to look like when you're working?
I wake up in the morning. I put together 200 packages of that book. I ship them to through UPS. Then I start drawing and writing. And then at night, usually around 7 or 8, I do this. I live stream and promote people.
What was it like before when you were at DC?
Nothing but drawing. I would just draw and I scan my pages and turn them in. It's a much bigger job. I mean, running your own business obviously is way different.
Do you ever draw live?
Yeah.
And like, do you ever do like time lapses where it's like zow and then you
I have. I don't want to bore people. I'd rather people just get the experience. The fact that I'm drawing is not that interesting. It's the final result to me. I want you to enter the world. I want to take you to an annihilated Philadelphia. I want you to visit the Pine Barrens in New Jersey.
We could go to an annihilated Philadelphia right now. That's not that difficult.
Only a couple hours drive.
It's really close.
I want you to go to the Pine Barrens and live with these raggedy survivors. I want you to see Cyberfrog represents everybody. He's not black. He's not white. He's definitely not gay. He's just a frog. And that means he represents everyone. I want you to see yourself in him because he has, emotions, feelings, ambitions, and he makes mistakes. He's not perfect. He's made a terrible mistake in the fact that he failed in 1998, and the world has suffered for it.
Someone mentioned that Deep Space Nine is better than Next Generation. I just want to say, actually, I agree.
I don't like Star Trek at all.
Really?
Oh, really?
Me and you, man.
Star
Me and you are the
Wars.
only
Yeah.
ones in this world that don't like
What do you guys
Star
not
Trek.
like about
It must be difficult being so wrong, you know.
What is it? What is your biggest problem with Star Wars or Star Trek? Rather?
Star Trek. I don't know. I just find it. I don't want to get into it too much because some Trekkies are watching right now. Going, I was going to
And
buy
that is-
his comic, but screw
in,
this guy.
in this world, there are things you're just not allowed to dislike, and it's one of the funniest things about it. Like you can say like I don't like this, and they're like you're wrong. you're
Cancel.
bad.
Okay.
It's a lot
Yeah.
of like guys
I'm-
standing up straight and yelling at each other face to face.
Yeah.
That's Star Trek. Whereas
Well-
Star Wars is like running and blasting and
That's-
like Wookiees screaming and stuff.
Star Wars is dumb. I am, however, kind of excited to see that Picard season 3 is actually picking up the story for once. My problem with Star Trek is that you get Deep Space Nine and you're like, wow, this is incredible. And then they're like, okay, for the next 15 years, prequels. And
Yeah.
no story development. And I'm like, I'm out.
The problem is 3 seasons in, right? Like you're like, I love the people who are like, dude, you got to watch the show. By the 3rd season, it's fantastic. I'm like, dude, they get one episode.
They
you
did
get
the whole-
you get one. Like I have the worst ADHD. I shuffle between 7 and 8 shows at a time, where I can maybe get through 2 to 3 episodes at a time before my brain needs to put something else on. If you can't hook me to your show in one episode, you get no more from me.
I just had a dream.
And real quick, sorry, just one thing that bums me out is Picard is finally picking up after like the latest developments in the Star Trek universe, but it's all remember Deanna Troi? Remember Commander Riker? Like the
Member
whole
berries.
It's all
It's
member
not
berries.
just-
Listen,
Yep.
I'm saying that this is the problem with all of these creators who didn't realize what was going to happen when they sold their creations to these mega corporations 50, 60 years ago, right? They didn't realize that some dude in an office who doesn't have a creative bone in his body was not going to see it as something that's beautiful and artistic and something that elicits human emotion. They just look at it as a way to look at somebody's going to make memes about this. Look, somebody's going to be able to sell this on social media.
It happens in short time frames as well. You take a look at the first Pirates of the Caribbean. How did they do so well? Pirates 1 is an amazing movie.
Johnny
That's just
Depp.
just sequelitis.
But like the famous line, you best start believing in ghost stories. You're in one. It's like memeable. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
The ending where he shoots Jeffrey Rush and then he's like, after all these years, you waste your shot. And he goes, and then Will Turner's like, he didn't waste it. And he drops it. And then he turns and dies. Masterful. And then they went, okay, now we'll take the iconography. We will jam it into a sequel, extend the play, and do it 10 times.
They also turned it into theme parks, which became a big part
It
of
was
it.
a theme park first.
It's oh yeah, oh no, you're right.
It was a
Holy
ride
crap!
first.
Or it was based
but
on.
like for a lot of this stuff, it's because it cross promotes into toys, it cross promotes into other mediums that they use.
Johnny Depp, Jack Sparrow wasn't supposed to be all crazy.
Yeah.
And then Johnny Depp decided to make him like, listen here.
Johnny.
And it worked really
You know,
well.
he still goes to hospitals in uniform as Captain Jack Sparrow to visit kids in cancer wards.
The first movie was really well done. And it was just like the lore, it was really interesting. Then the second movie was garbage that made no sense because they just wanted to profit off of it.
Well, look at
Third, the same. Fourth, they just... I think what was the Dead Men Tell No Tales?
Yeah.
I think that one was actually decent. It was like the only other good one.
Look what they could have done. Like J.K. Rowling ruined Harry Potter on her own. She owns everything. Like she got the last great publishing deal where after those movies or those books were so successful, she has almost full creative control over everything she does. Right. But she ended up just ruining it herself by being a major feminist.
I'm imagining she's just like sitting in her room, like with her eyes half closed, and she's like, "Oh, Dumbledore? Yeah, he's gay."
Well, she
Harry
was
Potter?
always a feminist. So that was
Hermione
always,
Granger? She's
Yeah.
actually black.
You know what I thought would be a cool tactic for a movie or a comic, and I'm going to say it publicly. Someone might create it. Is if the episode follows a piece of an item, and then it's all the people that pick up the item and get killed with it, and then the item falls, and someone else gets the item.
That's actually been done. I don't know what the original story is, but I know that American Dad spoofed it with Roger the Alien.
Wait, explain it better.
Like there's a there's a gun, and everyone the comic book is
it's
about the gun
the evil
itself,
gun.
and the people that
Yeah.
carry it are kind of in secondary.
Yeah.
But it's about the weapon or the item, like the
Okay.
data cube or whatever.
So watch American Dad. Roger takes a dump, and it's gold poop encrusted with jewels. And then there's an arc periodically throughout the seasons of American Dad that follows the item and the people around it. And so it's like a janitor's cleaning, and he's like, "What's this?" And he finds it, and then his friend goes, he's like, "Hey, Mike, what'd you find there?" What you got? And he's like, nothing. And he goes, "Let me see it. Let me see it." And then he clubs him and takes it. And he goes, "It's mine." And then he runs and he gets in his car. Yeah. Then later on, abruptly, it'll like pan away from Stan and then show the truck driving on the road. Turns widescreen. The music gets eerie, and then it shows him driving to like a mountain to like bury it.
Yeah, that's good because you get to show.
Follow it.
I think the X-Files did something along that lines where something keeps going through pawn shops. And it ends up turning whoever buys it evil.
What I like about it is it shows the main characters as secondary characters, and you get to see how they react to the world rather than how they create the world. Like if you did that to the X-Men and there was an item and you just watched each X-Man deal with the item, you'd get like another perspective on their personality.
The best recurring characters in television are actually designed to do that. A good recurring character in movies, not in movies, but in television, is designed to take a main character that you see exist only within the realm of one universe, and they have the same interactions with the same people all the time because the world requires it. A good guest, like a guest character or a recurring character who lives in a world outside of what they experience every day, is supposed to draw out different performances from those characters so you see a different side of them.
We are going to go to Super Chats. So if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. And I guess right now our big thing that we're trying to promote is head over to Trash House Records and purchase the song Bright Eyes that we just released. As of today until next Thursday, that is the time period we have to sell as many songs as possible so that we can try and once again chart on Billboard, and then basically give a big middle finger to all of these companies that are trying to put their boot on us because they don't like the fact that we're pushing back and developing culture. So if we can get a decent amount, I think we only need like 10,000 sales because that's like a big number, in 1 week. But if you want to support our work, I say do it. Let's read what you got. All right. Dirty Jimmy says, the pace of repression outstrips our ability to understand it. If you know, then you know. I've been actually feeling kind of mixed a little bit, sometimes confident. The fact that the conversations we've been able to have been expanding. The calling out of the lies, calling out Fauci, we just saw the International Sports League banned males in women's sports, which was massive. I feel like we're actually gaining a lot of ground. Yeah. I mean, look, if you look at the success of Ethan's comic, $1 million, you're outside of the big machine and you're more successful. So it's almost like the independent decentralization is actually winning and the cult is being pushed back.
Ethan and Eric July are probably our two fantastic examples of people that are proving that it can be done on your own.
Are you working with Eric?
Anyway, listen, it just goes to show, if you listen to the fans and you're paying attention to the fans, you're going to make money. That's what we'd like to impart to Marvel and DC.
Hilarious that's like hard to explain to people now that don't understand that listening to the fans is actually just a great way to make money.
What happens is people are getting confused by the loud minority and they think that's the fan base, but so it's a little bit of a diffusion.
S.A. Federale says, Tim, you and Bill's announcement today was epic. He's like Jack's benevolent twin, and you're becoming better than Cronkite every day. Walk to walk the walk. Dudes, also thank you. Check out youtube.com/Timcast and the latest episode of the Culture War podcast, where we basically announce we're suing California. And then that's like actually happening. It's like the paper, like they had me do the paperwork. I signed some papers. As for Bandcamp, we are beginning the preliminary exploratory options of how we take legal action. I saw several super chats from people saying that they do not have access to the song they purchased, which would mean something weird happened. I mean, you bought a song using their platform, and then they took that song away from you. So did they steal it? Do they owe you the money? I don't have access to any of those people. I don't know their emails. I don't know who they are. I don't know who lost it. I don't know how to get in contact with them. So this seems like a contract violation between the user and me. From like Bandcamp should be liable for this.
This used to happen a lot on iTunes and stuff, right? You'd buy a movie and it would be on the server, and then when rights would be renegotiated and the movie would be taken off that platform, you suddenly don't have access to the movie you purchased anymore, and you don't know whether they're going to get it back or not. You always buy physical media, exactly.
Shane H. Wilder says, love seeing you and Tom taking over the charts. Keep it going. Rock on, guys, and peace be with all of you. I will say, When we released the other songs, we did a heavy promotion Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I think we're getting to the point where the music thing needs to just become its own entity and be responsible more for itself, which is what I'm basically saying is I won't be promoting it as heavily, though we will still do like promo, shout out, please buy it throughout the next week of episodes. We got to get to the point where we just start putting out music and let the machine build itself and the snowballs roll down the hill. So we can't treat every song like the biggest release ever. We can't just try and hyper-focus every single one. No, we put out this song. We've been sitting on it for a year. We'll put out another song next month, and we'll just let the music be the music and then exist as its library, and then hopefully the snowball rolls down the hill. But more importantly, we also need to spread the resources around to start just producing more music from other artists. All right, let's see. Zimemeru says, Ian, please come back to us. What happened to Tim isn't your fault. The real Tim would want you to move on, not spend all of your time in the metaverse reliving Timcast episodes from 20 years ago.
That's a message from the future. Thank you.
All right. John Curson says, some bangers dropped today with Bright Eyes and Dr. James Lindsay workshop on inclusion. Both left me speechless, like Brandon Caserta's story on being framed by the FBI. Haha.
Just felt smothered by memes.
James Eaton just said, I requested a refund from Bandcamp. No response. Well, see, here's the issue. If you request a refund from them, but they've deleted my account, I don't know where they get the money from. They've not contacted me, so we got a problem, guys. I don't have a list of the people who need a refund. I have no idea. I have no idea.
I'm looking at it. You go to timcast.bandcamp.com. It's blank. It just shows your name. Then you go to the Wayback Machine, and it shows only ever wanted.
Yep.
That's nuts.
Well, so there's
Tencent. Are you suing Tencent? Like, are you going to sue the owners? Are Epic Games, which owns Bandcamp?
Bandcamp is an entity, and they're based out of North Carolina, I guess. So it's going to be really interesting. But I got, whatever. I hope they should expect it. And I don't know how far this goes, but they try to do this thing, these tech companies, where they're like, you must go to arbitration. And I'm like, that's for a judge to decide. Like, if we file and a judge says there's an arbitration clause, so go to arbitration, I'll say okay. But the judge might be like, no dice. Like, it's up to the judge. So my attitude is simply, I feel wronged. I think all the people who purchased the song from Bandcamp, which is thousands, were wronged. And we may be dealing with something like 5,000 to 10,000 arbitration claims. I mean, for the people who, here's what you got to understand. It's not just the song. It's that if you were on that page, you could comment and see other fans of the song. You weren't just buying the song. You were using the platform to gain access to a community. That's what you were paying for, and they've taken it away from you.
And Bryson Gray. He was unceremoniously removed.
And 5 times August. Yep. Harpy says, checked Bandcamp and no longer have access to song. All right, well, here's the thing. I never revoked that license from you. I say that if you bought it, you have a right to listen to that song whenever you want. Bandcamp took it from you.
That's why there's a lawsuit.
Sounds like some kind of theft or something. I don't know. Like if you went to Best Buy and bought a CD, and then you're like, I have a right to listen to Metallica, and then a guy from Best Buy showed up at your house and took the CD from you. Like that'd be like a weird thing. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, look, the CD was ours. You bought a license to it. And it's like, hold on there a minute. No, the license was from them. I just went to your store to buy it. Yeah, well, I don't know. I think it's weird. At the very least, I don't understand how this will affect the future of commerce, and thus there's some kind of precedent that needs to be explored. Because obviously Best Buy couldn't send an employee to take a CD from your house. That is your copy of the CD. You don't own the music, you own the right to that copy of the music to listen to. There are certain restrictions on how you can distribute or play it, especially if you're a business. But I'm like, it's I don't know.
And technology changes so fast that the law and precedent never catch up.
Let's try it this way. Imagine you bought a ticket to see a movie at a theater, and then when you showed up at the theater, the movie just didn't play anything.
Yeah.
You'd be like, hey, dude, I bought a ticket for this movie, and they went, we banned the movie. It's like, well, I bought the ticket from you, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, the money for the movie theaters goes to Hollywood, right? And the theater
60%
right.
to Hollywood, 40%
the
to
theater gets a
theaters,
cut, just like
the other way
Bandcamp
around.
takes a cut.
Yeah.
So imagine going to the movies and buying a ticket and then sitting down and the movie never plays.
Yeah.
And they say, well, we banned the movie from the theater. It's like, well, then you owe me my money back. And they go, get out, you're banned. Like,
Any chance that you would put a CD out?
Not a CD, vinyl maybe.
Vinyl?
Yeah.
This is like what we talk about a lot. Like when you try to call up these tech companies, like if you have an issue with Facebook, Do you actually get on the phone with Facebook and talk to them? No, they just assume that your problem, that you're just not going to want to deal with the vast bureaucracy and the inability to get a hold of someone and actually take care of these issues. So they end up winning either way.
You know, big problem here too. They got bought. Bandcamp got bought March 2nd of 2022 by Epic Games. It was March 17th. 2 weeks later of 2022, they changed their terms of service. Yeah. So get a copy of the terms before the sale, and then put that up against the terms now and see what they changed and see if it's legal to do that to a customer that signed under the old terms.
Yeah, but probably what happened is they sent out an email saying the terms have been updated. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which is
heinous. Terms don't matter. People don't understand. Judges aren't robots who are like, let me see here. The code script reads, if this, then that. Sorry, have a nice day. They're human beings. And if someone comes in and says, Your Honor, our terms say that we can take all of your money whenever we want, he's going to be like, shut up. Can't do that. It's crazy to me. I talk to so many people, and maybe this is something for people who don't understand how business operates and they've not run a company, but they'll be like, well, if you had a contract, then you have to do it. And I'm like, that doesn't mean anything. I can go ask a judge. So people seem to think that if I say like, hey, well, let's do a deal, Ethan, where, I will distribute the comics, and for every comic I sell, I get a percentage cut. Just sign this document. And then you say, you got it, buddy, and you sign it, and the document actually says, I hereby revoke, rescind, give all rights to Tim Pool. He owns it 100%. That would not fly in court. You'd go to court, and I'd be like, he agreed to give me the full ownership of all of his IP, and then he would just say to the judge, that's not what we agreed upon, and that's insane. I would never have signed that. And then the judge would be like, why didn't you read it? And be like, I did. I misunderstood it. The judge will be like, okay, the contract is void. A judge can simply be like, no reasonable person would actually agree to what you're talking about. You were trying to exploit someone. The contract is voided. I hereby rule. Bang, gavel. People think judges are like, but there's a contract and you signed it. Sorry. Now, if it was something more reasonable, like I said, I'll take 5%, but the contract says 20. Now you're in trouble. Because you're going to be like, I never agreed to 20. I'm like, well, you signed 20. Like, now you might be lying to me. But for something so absurd. So if in their terms, it's something like you can't sue us, a judge might be like, get out of here. They can sue you. Mm-hmm. I'm letting it go. Or they might say no. Depends on what the judge wants to do. Sometimes judges do get real rigid and just say, I'm bound by statutory law or whatever. But sometimes you get good or bad judges. That's why there's an appeals process. All right. Fat Boy says you have no clue about TikTok, apparently. I've been on there 2 years and have never seen China influence. I did, however, learn more about what happened in Ohio and all the chemical food processing plants blown up, etc. News. That is it. Don't you get it?
You don't see the influence. That's the point.
But showing you chemical and food processing plant explosions to make you think that there is some inner turmoil in this country is a part of their attempt, in my opinion, to sow discord. You look at it's not about a video popping up being like, China is great, you love China. It's a video that pops up that says, you should sterilize your children. And other people seeing videos saying, your country is falling apart, everything's burning down, quick run. That's the attack on your psyche. If they're showing you tons of chemical and food plants and explosions, that is literally it, right? I talked about this with all the food plants burning down. They happen all the time. And everyone kept saying, look at all these. You see all the stories about train derailments? Mm-hmm. We didn't talk about it because because it's not news. East Palestine was news. A major chemical spill explosion, they burned it off. Then all of a sudden, everyone started saying, look at all these train derailments that are happening all over the country. And then I looked it up and I'm like, yeah, that's actually par for the course.
Oh, yeah. There's like 1,000, like there's
1,700 per year on average.
A lot, yeah.
So we're talking about more than 100 per month that happen. But because of East Palestine, media outlets were like, let's keep showing these over and over and over again because it gets clicks. And I'm like, it's not news that these things happen.
So much of our lives now is algorithmically manipulated because so much of your life takes place looking into your phone almost all the time. Yep. When you really think about how often you look at your phone on a daily basis, you really are at the whims of what your phone is showing you. And whether that's Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, any of these places, your mood, your state of mind can ultimately be controlled by your phone.
Just the radiation coming off the screen, I think.
We were just talking the other day, I was like, dude, have there been any long-term studies that tell us that these things aren't going to nuke our brains in 50 years? I don't know.
Show me one if you see one.
Does that exist? I don't know.
But Ethan, do you write on like a Wacom digital tablet or do you write on paper?
No, I write on paper. Yeah.
Does it free your mind? Do you feel freed from the algorithm when you're working?
For me, it's a tactile experience that I really need to touch paper and a pen and actually feel the drag of the pen. I can't really put that into words, but it's how I've always drawn. and I'm not looking to change that in any way. I see Wacom tablets and everything. Don't hate me for this, fellow artists. I see it as cheating. I mean, it really is. Like, you get one shot at it, and you can use whiteout and everything like that. But when you can just blow up this part and move this around, it doesn't feel...
It's kind of like the digitization of music.
Yeah, it just feels a little artificial to me. But no judgment. You know, people do their thing. I'm old-fashioned. All
right, what do we got here? Son of a Murph says, is that a Novo guitar hanging behind you? Had the chance to play one today, and they're freaking sweet. Enjoy the weekend, everyone. No, it's a Harmony Silhouette.
Beautiful machine.
Yeah, it's actually one of my favorites. My Strat, the Strat that I'm playing in the Bright Eyes music video is my favorite guitar, followed by that one. It's amazing. Sounds so good. I love it. Good play, good action. So good. G Phaser says, I said this on Stick, Sex, and Hammer. If TikTok gets banned, Elon needs to jump on this with his own version, or better yet, bring back Vine. Seriously, yeah. TikTok is Vine, essentially. Mm-hmm. Elon, bring back Vine. Yeah. Bring back Vine, and TikTok is done. We don't got to worry about it.
I wonder if Vine, was it costing them money for hosting?
No, they wanted people to use Twitter instead. They wanted people to post the same things they were posting, but on Twitter. But that's not how it works.
Remember Periscope?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was Twitter's video.
Yeah.
And then it...
Yeah.
A couple of years ago.
Well, TikTok started as like a karaoke app, right? It started as like people just singing.
Wasn't it called Musical.ly?
I believe so, yeah. And so I'm wondering if that was by design or if they just stumbled across something like, oh my God, we control 150 million Americans. Like, let's do something with this. This is a powerful tool we have.
I don't believe they're real. Like,
Dead internet theory?
Look at the comments on TikTok posts, and I'm like, I don't think that's real people.
We were talking about that because we were looking at the Gotham Knights reviews and all of it's got like an 18% from critics. And if the critics hate it, it means it's either really, really good or even worse than you could possibly imagine. In this case, it's worse than you could possibly imagine. But most of the comments for the positive ones all look extremely fake because the audience score was like 53%. And it's like, it's all the most generic stuff you've ever seen. And most of them, they either have egg avatars. They don't have actual pictures there. No way to know.
We got to snag that duet functionality if we want to make something as good as TikTok. Because being able to video respond to someone in the video is
Tell Bill
key.
to do it.
On Minds?
Yeah. Bill, make a video shorts app that rivals what TikTok is.
You know, if Minds is about to build out a sweet video app, that's the way to do it.
And ban dancing videos. No dancing videos, and then we'll keep the kids serious.
I like the dancing videos.
Oh, hey, I love the dancing videos. No, I was talking about, when you talked a couple weeks ago about the girl dancing in like the Sam's Club? You talked about it on the channel. That girl went on to be like, she has like 3 million followers now, and she does choreography for like Shania Twain and built an entire like ridiculous career because she used to record those videos. But that's the way it started.
Adrienne Curry says, thank God Stan Lee left us before women destroyed nerddom. Comic-Con, E3, DC, Marvel, and now Lord of the Rings all lost to us because of feminism.
Not only did Stan leave us, he built Stan Lee's Superhumans, one of the greatest shows on television before he left us, and it's a masterpiece.
Hey, I want to just, I don't think women destroyed nerdom. I think feminism did, and I think, woke destroyed nerdom. I mean, we've had females who understand that mostly, when you're writing Daredevil, you're writing it for boys, and they understand that, and they do a great job. So women, you're welcome in comics, but understand 95% of your audience is male.
It's just knowing your audience.
Bear that in mind.
This is an attack on masculinity. They hate it.
That's correct.
Like during Gamergate, the big thing was they wanted to make walking simulators. They're like, why are games always predicated on violence? And it's like...
Sex and violence is what sells.
Have you played the new Harry Potter game?
No.
It's like, it's Harry Potter, but there's combat in it. Yeah. And it's funny because there's substantially more combat than Harry Potter had in its whole story.
Yeah.
Like, granted, there were big battles in Harry Potter, but later on, for the most part, it was like solving puzzles.
Well, because that was the structure of the story, right? It made sense for the battles to happen later on. And there is good feminist media. I will always push people to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. If you want to watch actual good feminist television with a feminist character that actually exists in a world where she has emotions, she's a fully fledged person, and she is not somebody that just beats up a bunch of men and makes a bunch of quips. She's actually vulnerable. Go watch Buffy.
Hunger Games.
Yes.
No, if you want to get a ComicsGate project by a completely based woman. Irene Strakowski left Marvel Comics of her own accord to come be ComicsGate, just out of a moral sense. She's got a book called Fiendish 2 on Indiegogo right now. I promise you, it is amazing. You will love it. Go back Fiendish 2 on Indiegogo.
What if we find a way to team up and we can help distribute the stuff through our website?
Tim, are you that good of a guy? Are you an angel from heaven? I mean,
I'm saying like we keep talking about how like the number one thing we do outside of talking politics is trying to build culture. So I've said this before. Look, I could hire 10 more conservative commentators, libertarian commentators, disaffected liberals, and just be talk radio. Or we can try and win a culture war. The Daily Wire does that, and they do it very well. They've done a great job of finding personalities who are in this space of the Freedom Faction to talk about these ideas. They've also done big cultural endeavors. My thing is like, I'm going to focus strictly on the cultural stuff and try and just build that kind of stuff. So if there was a way that we could create some kind of portal or some kind of hub on timcast.com that, like I was mentioning before, we wanted to do some kind of like weekly chapter release or something. You know, maybe there's a way to do it Shonen Jump style.
Were you talking about like digital release?
Yeah.
Like, because Amazon did Comixology, right? And then the infrastructure for it was like really hard to upkeep from what I understand. Ethan, do you know anything about that? Like Comixology, which was bought by Amazon, right?
Yeah. They destroyed the technology and made it really impractical and hard to use.
Here's what I'm thinking. I'd have to know what you guys are working with and what you guys need. But my idea is like, if we had a way to do like, I wanted to do weekly chapters of comics, kind of like how Shonen Jump, they'd put their release out and then you have like chapters every week. The new Naruto would come out and I would read it. But if it's too hard to do one chapter of a comic every week, is what people said, it could be like one chapter every other week and you interlace them. So if it takes someone 2 weeks to do a chapter, then you put that up and then 2 weeks later, the next one goes up and then in between you're skipping it, or maybe even 3 weeks or something like that. Some way to have like, hey, this Wednesday is the latest release of the chapter of whatever.
We have to create stories. This is the thing. I mean, comic books are an easy way to put stories out there. And the problem is right now the left has complete domination. Woke has all of the storytelling that Americans at the West are feeding to their kids. And our kids are hungry for it. They're going to Japan for their needs. We really do need a way to get our stories out there to more people. This non-woke stuff. I would love to talk to you about that.
Let's figure something out.
Okay.
We got Dushana says, Superman can beat Goku. Batman proved he can beat Superman. Therefore, Batman is greater than Goku, and everyone that Goku defeated, Batman is the greatest superhero. Let me just pause and say, you don't need to do that. Batman can defeat Goku, and it's not even an argument. Okay, look, if you're going to be like, who would win in a fight, Batman or Thanos, or Batman or name character, eternity, and it's like, well, here's what Batman would do. No. Batman versus Goku is no question, no argument. Batman is a ninja. He is stealth. He is tactical. Goku is overly trusting. It is in Goku's character arc to be extremely trusting and get taken advantage of. Batman would walk up to Goku and then do a single move that would incapacitate Goku. He'd like nerve pinch him and then Goku would just like fall asleep because Batman would trust him. He'd be like, I have no reason to fight you, Batman. You're a good guy. And then Batman would go, whoosh, and then Goku would just go,
Yeah.
He's
But
too trusting.
Superman would kill Batman.
Nope.
Blast him with heat rays from space.
I
But
guess
the thing is,
like,
Superman's a good guy, so he wouldn't do that. That's the point of the debate.
It's like having the Deathstroke versus Deadpool debate that everyone always has. There's the guy who did the video reenactment of it. Yeah.
But look. So you could say, I personally believe it would be a Deus Ex Machina for you to say Superman could heat blast and kill Batman, because Batman's superpower is actually his ability to escape and solve problems. So it's like, I've heard it described as peak human as the way to describe it. It wouldn't make sense for Batman's character to instantly be taken out by Superman.
Yeah, he'd be ready for it. He thinks ahead.
Right.
He wouldn't always be ready for it. I mean, he'd have to have kryptonite on his being.
Does, though.
And Superman, does he?
He has belt. Always. Yep.
Oh my God, what a jerk.
Yeah, well.
And then
But
there
you
was
gotta
a
be
hard
ready, I
world.
guess.
There was this.
Yeah.
There was the Justice
What a
League
jerk.
arc where all of the superheroes' weaknesses are being used against them.
Yeah.
Someone stole Batman's counter plans and started executing them against the heroes. And then they find out, they're like, you drafted these strategies to take us all down.
Was that from
and,
the Judas contract?
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
what it
it
was.
was
And then
from
Batman's like,
contract.
yes.
Yeah.
He just says yes.
The best part of that is
And then-
he says they all get offended that he has all the
Yep.
list of how to defeat them all, and they're all super offended. He's like, I'm not offended. He's like, you're basically like weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
I think Bradley Cooper from Limitless could be Batman on the Limitless pill.
Oh,
Yeah.
which means I have to do my daily shield. Watch the Limitless TV show, which is one of the very few examples of a television show that should not be good, but absolutely
Really?
got one season and then they killed it. It was
The movie
horrible.
was so dumb. He's like, this pill's made me super start. Forgot to pay my bookie. Like, what? I guess.
The show is great. It's got Jennifer Carpenter from Dexter.
Purple says, Black Clover, Naruto, Dragon Ball. You like all my favorite manga. You can finish Black Clover in manga. It's still going. You need to check out One Piece and One Punch Man, also Attack on Titan. One Punch Man is so good. It is so good. In fact, it was so good, it actually broke into American mainstream. And it was like Vice was writing how good it was. Fantastic. One Piece I've heard tremendously great things about. Never got into it, though. And Attack on Titan is a masterpiece. Seriously, if you are involved in culture war politics, you really need to watch Attack on Titan. It is like, there's that joke where Jordan Peterson says to watch it, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure he would tell you to watch it if he did. Because it's about privilege and like, it covers like woke politics and postmodernism. It is brilliant. You familiar with Attack on Titan?
I've seen it, yeah, but I've not read it. Again, manga is kind of, I've only barely scratched the surface of manga.
All right, we'll grab one more. What do you got? Jasper Plan 9 says, I'm new here. Tim is winning me over with his promoting a parallel economy cheers panel. That's what we are trying to do. So head over to trashhouserecords.com, buy Bright Eyes, so we can start creating these. We are but a humble acorn in the ground. We are not a massive oak tree or anything like that. Maybe 10, 20 years, maybe in 100 years, there will be a massive TMG, big parent media corporation that has American values and believes in the family and meritocracy and individualism. For today, we are but a few humble shows. But if we win, and we keep winning, here's what you got to understand. 3 of 3 songs hit Billboard. I am telling you, there are people out there who wish they were musician, rock stars, who wish they could get their song charting, and they're like, how do I do it, man? Right now, many of these people are working for woke record labels or signed to them, and they're being told, do as you're told, take the vax, kick out your band members who vote for Trump, otherwise you will never make it. And they're going, I wish I didn't have to, but I have no choice. Then, off in the distance, they look and they're like, that dude on his own got all 3 of his songs on Billboard. What am I doing with these guys? We want to steal them all. We want people who are in that woke machine to be like, there's clearly a way to do this because that guy's more successful than we've ever been. And we're sitting here bending the knee to these crackpots and he would never make us do that. That's why I'm like, we got to win. Now, here's what I think. We can't just keep doing like, here's another one of Tim Pool's songs, which is why we're like, we need to expand. But it's like we started pushing a snowball down the hill. I think the fact that we got 3 of 3 on Billboard gives us a tremendous launching pad to be able to go to people and be like, don't do those deals. They can't get it done for you. Start working with us. We will plant those seeds and your song will be more successful with us than with anybody else. Then you'll start seeing these people be like, I'd sign with you, man, but I'm not confident you're actually going to get my song out there. We're going to do a deal. You're going to forget about the music. If I go do a deal with Tim Pool, I'm going to be on Billboard. My debut release is going to be a hit, and it's going to be top of iTunes. And they're going to be like, no, wait, don't be woke. And they're going to be like, nah, I'm okay. We need the Freedom Faction to have these cultural tools. I don't care if it's me or anybody else who's doing it. ComicsGate's clearly doing it. Support ComicsGate.
Thank you.
So this
Can you say hi, ComicsGate?
Hi, ComicsGate. This is what we need to do.
That's a thing.
We need people who work at Marvel and DC to stand up and say, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. Doesn't make me feel good. And then go independent and win. So with your support, we will. Become a member at timcast.com to get access to our Discord, our Hangout, where we share a lot of this cultural stuff and beta testing. We're working on basically giving people in the Elite Club early access and then people in the VIP chat room access to our call-in show. So become a member, support our work if you really do believe in it and you want to help us out. The time is now. There's not much time left. We've got to be active. So I really do appreciate your support. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me personally at Timcast. Ethan, you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, I'd like to shout out John Malin's Godlike on Indiegogo. I'd like to shout out Shane Davis's Inglorious Rex 2 on Indiegogo. And of course, Cyberfrog Dark Harvest on Indiegogo. If you'd like to buy any of the old Cyberfrog stuff, you can find it on eBay. Just search for Cyberfrog. Our seller name is Cyberfrog9. We ship same day that you order. You'll have it in a couple of days. Thanks for listening. ComicsGate.org, and then follow me on Twitter at Ethan Van Sciver.
Guys, if you want to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at Brett Dastovic on both. Remember, Pop Culture Crisis is Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is noon Pacific right here on YouTube. Me and Mary talk about pop culture, celebrities, movies, all that good stuff. Come hang out with us.
You guys follow me at Ian Crossland, and I just want to shout out Carter Banks for his epic production of Bright Eyes. He did a lot of the work on that. He did a lot of the harmonies, too. So I mentioned that I did vocal harmonies on it. Tim, myself, Carter, we all did vocal harmonies on it. It is magical. It was really fun to work with. Carter did a lot of work on that.
I'm kind of feeling like I would love to do a Soundgarden cover with Phil Labonte for like our next song.
We've been listening to Soundgarden before the show.
I know,
so it gets
I just
me
love
amped up.
Soundgarden, dude.
So good. Chris Cornell. Good. I want to call him Jesus. Jesus Christ Pose. Was that a Soundgarden song, or was that Pearl Jam? Or was that
No, that's Soundgarden, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Jesus Christ Pose? That
Yeah.
guy, man, what a life.
All right,
let's move this out.
You guys follow me at Kellen PDL. Hey, I love this. Was like one of the best Fridays so far.
You had
at least
fun?
in
I
my
had a
this was an
great
awesome
time.
conversation.
Thank you.
And yeah, if you like conversations like this, watch Pop Culture Crisis. That's what it's all about. And I am on there every Wednesday. So yes, Kellen PDL. Thanks, guys.
We will see you all this weekend with our clips, and Monday when we're back for the show. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see y'all then.